Gain power, stabilize, bring capitalism into the Marxist utopia. That's what they want, that's what they want. Abolish capitalism. These are the four rules of the woke. Embedded in actions, words ain't gold. From pushing and playing the Marxist dreams in the dance of power, scheme and scheme. In every move, there's in the themes. Remember, nothing's ever as it seems. It's true, it's
Hello. Hello,
Hello.
Shadow Tech. Hello. You literally
Hey.
joined like the second that I hit play on the song, and I was like, oh, fuck.
Did you see I was rocking?
Oh, do you like it?
It goes so hard.
Yeah. Do you know what I did? I took one of my articles from my Substack and I put it in ChatGPT and I said, write a song based on this article. And it didn't do like it perfectly, but it did a fairly good job. So that was
Sweet.
pretty cool. How are you?
Easy. Fine.
Yeah.
I'm cool. How you
Yeah.
doing?
I'm all right.
You getting hyped for this weekend? Getting ready for Outback?
I'm half excited and I'm half scared. I still don't. I don't know. I feel like I don't know. I don't know what to expect. What do you think?
Mm.
I don't know.
Mm.
Look, I have my Groyper
I think
shawl.
you should drink. I think you should just go out and get drunk with the Groypers.
What if I just go get high? That might be a better plan.
Well, all right, whatever.
Look at my Groyper shawl. Do you know why it's the
Okay.
Groyper shawl?
No.
Because it's got a swastika in the middle of it.
Groypers they don't like swastikas.
Well, Nick likes my shawl, so.
Okay, sweet. No, it needs to be
Anyway.
cross for Jesus.
No.
Yeah.
Anyway, so do you have any advice for me as I'm about to head into the Groyper den, as it were?
Yeah, but just booze. Just buy
booze.
drinks. You should get drunk. You should just bring a bunch of extra money and just get the Groypers drunk with you.
Why do I have
That's
to buy
what I
them
really
drinks?
want.
I'm the girl. They should be buying me drinks.
I just like whatever it takes. Like, fine, get them to pay for it, but just like I want them sauced up.
Why?
I think it'd just be cool. That'd be hilarious. I just want to see them all drunk.
Do they actually drink?
Yep. And that's when that's when you get the realest Groyper is when he's drunk.
What does that mean? What
They're all
should I
capping.
expect?
They're all fronting. You get them real loose. You hear what they're really all about. It'll just be funny.
Okay.
They fight with each other. They'll get into rap battles. They'll
rap battles.
yeah. They get goofy, and I just want to see. It's just funny. I want to laugh. So yeah, get the Groypers drunk. I don't know, like what else? Some practical advice?
Yes, practical advice.
Yeah.
What do you think I should do if Lucas Gage starts yelling at me or something and starts calling me a demon and a bitch and telling me to get out?
Pepper spray.
That's actually not a bad idea.
That'd be sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I do have
bear mace.
I might have pepper spray left over from one of my undercover things that I had to go to, in which someone gave me pepper spray. So
never thinking ahead. Yeah, pepper spray.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's it. And then just like be a good, just be a nice guest.
I'm
That's my
always
advice.
nice.
Be a nice guest. Bring pepper spray, and get everybody drunk.
That's what we're gonna do. All right. Hey, I have a question for you. Actually, hang on, because Jaden posted this picture earlier, and I want to know if it's real. I don't know if you saw this. Hang on. Sorry, I should have had it up. Where is it? Here it is. Present share screen. Is this real?
100%. Yeah, that's a screenshot from a video. I have the full video. That's real. That's Beardson next to Milo.
Wow. Beardson's tiny. How tall is he?
He's the smallest man in the world.
Is he smaller than Nick?
A little bit, not
A
much
little bit.
though. They
Mm.
are tiny. They're just little teeny tiny guys.
See, see, this is part of what I'm afraid of though, because like I'm like not like I'm like 5'6", right? And so like I feel like I'm gonna be wearing platform boots. I know that because that's like all I ever wear. And but like I'm gonna be so much taller than them. I'm gonna be so much bigger than them, and I feel like it's gonna be weird.
You should beat them all up.
I don't want to beat them up. I like the Groypers. The Groypers like me right now.
Well, when they get drunk and they press you, you should just you won't have to back down. You can just handle them.
Well, I'm not.
That'd
I'm
be
not.
sweet.
I'm not afraid of that at all. Bosevich says Michelle Malkin used to be Mama Groyper. I hope one day you will watch her 2016 CPAC speech on YouTube. Enjoy the weekend. Thank you, Bosevich. Appreciate it. All right. Should we talk about anything else, or should we just jump into the movie? What do you want to do?
Now we should just jump into it.
Jump into it. All right.
Yeah.
What are we getting into tonight?
Okay, part 3 is when they okay, so if you remember the first parts, then I don't have to recap. So everybody just remember that, and then part 3, we're coming closer to current era, and it progresses into how they started getting into a broader aspect of social experimentation. And you
Okay.
might know about the Esalen Institute, and that's going to get covered here.
I
And
don't think I do know about that. What is it?
oh, I thought you might, because it's a California psychedelics and altered state behavioral therapy experimentation institute.
Oh, maybe I've heard of it. I'm not good with names of things sometimes, so maybe I've heard of it and I'll remember. But
Well, it's in here to get covered, so I don't gotta, there's not a whole lot of preamble, but just remember the first 2 parts, and then this is part 3. That's all you need to know.
all right.
But okay, so the subtitle is "There's a policeman inside our heads, and he must be destroyed." So just like take that for
policeman?
what it's. Yeah. So it's learning how to remove the inner inhibitions.
All right. Bot says not-for-profit holistic educational center offering wild comfort and space for emergent transformation and internal exploration since 1962. Does this still exist?
Yeah, I think it does.
All
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I know about it because I used to listen to a podcast that was archiving speeches from mainly like the 60s, in that era, 60s, maybe through the 70s and 80s a little too, but it was Tim Leary and Ram Dass and who else? Terrence McKenna, a bunch of other guys. These guys who were like part of the psychedelic thing that happened in the 60s, right? So they were in the mind expansion, psychonaut, they're these far out dudes, they're just like so far out, and they would travel around doing these speeches and workshops for people who are into learning about that stuff. And there's a real interesting archive of their lecture series, and many of them would be passing through. In Esalen was a place that they would go in California, and they'd host like weekend retreats with a few of them, and you could go there and meet other people who were in that sphere. So like things that we know about like Burning Man and stuff like that, and really all of kind of like Silicon Valley, that all came from that culture in the 60s, like the Santa Cruz, just south of San Francisco. The reason why it ended up in San Francisco there is because that's where the hippies and the psychedelic acid droppers were, and the futuristic cybernetic thinkers like Tim Leary. Like Tim Leary was talking about the internet and personal computers in the fucking 60s. Like he was tripping acid and visualizing the
crazy.
future and imagining like AI and the internet. and if you listen to his old speeches about it from 50 years ago, it's like he was just like dead on accurate. He predicted everything that we're going through. It's really wild.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Did you ever go to Burning Man?
No,
Did you ever want to go to Burning Man?
not really. No, I've been to a couple sort of hippie music festivals, and I hated them. They were just like hectic and dirty, and not my scene.
That's how I kind of felt about, like, I wanted to go to Burning Man, like, in theory, but I kind of felt like I'd be over it after about a day and then just want to go home. And it would just suck
That's
from
part of
there
the
on.
thing. Yeah, it's for
Yeah.
people who don't get out much or something, or they just got some sort of inner itch they got to scratch by walking around being a freak. And
Yeah.
I don't have that. I just by the time I got out there and set up, I'd be like, I mean, I used to build off-road race trucks, and I spent like many weekends in the desert. Like I've had my fill. I don't need to go to another one, especially surrounded by a bunch of stinky freaks who are trying to like trade me bottle caps for something. Like I don't need to do that. I'm good.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right. Well, let's just jump right into it, shall we?
Don't settle for anything less than you can be.
Oh, wow.
Make your life a masterpiece.
Yeah, classic Tony Robbins.
This is a series about how Sigmund
still
Freud's
around.
ideas about the
He's
unconscious
cool,
mind
actually. I love that guy.
have been used by those in power to control the masses in an age of democracy. Last week's episode showed how Freud's ideas spread throughout America in the 1950s. They were promoted by his daughter Anna and by Freud's nephew, Edward Bernays, who invented public relations. He brought Freud's theories into the heart of advertising and marketing.
A man like you? I mean, with a car like this?
What they both believed was that underneath all human beings was a hidden, irrational self, which needed to be controlled, both for the good of individuals and the stability of society.
You know what that just reminded me of? Which is like my favorite movie scene of all time. And it's random. It's not actually related to it, but it just reminded me of it. You've seen The Shining, right?
Oh yeah, sure.
The scene where the guy is like getting a blowjob by the guy in the bear costume is the greatest movie scene of all time. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I think I probably blocked that scene from my
No,
memory.
it's incredible. It's so good though. You seriously don't know that
You
scene?
would love that scene. You
No,
would.
because it's so great.
What
Because
the
it's just like you turn a corner and it's just like a guy on a bed getting a blowjob from a guy in a bear costume, and it's just like, what the fuck even is this?
Well, I mean, if you remember Kubrick, did you end up watching Eyes Wide Shut?
Yes.
He's nodding to some of the weird shit that goes on with these elites and their weird getaway mansions and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of that stuff is, there's a lot of symbolism in there that you don't really understand what it's referencing. That's exactly the impression you get. What the fuck is going on here? But there's numerology in there and the numbers on the doors and the shirt that the kid's wearing, and they're all nods to this and that thing. It's like encoded with a lot of weird little hints and breadcrumbs, and it's all sprinkled in there. It's very odd.
Oh, it's the greatest scene of all time.
Why?
Because it is. It's just so random. Like, it's just like, first of all, the movie in general is just like one of the greatest movies of all time. But like that scene in particular, it just like comes out of nowhere and you're like, okay, this makes no sense. And actually it makes all the sense in the world at exactly the same time. I don't know. Okay. I don't know any better way to describe it. It's just a great fucking scene.
All right. Okay. Sweet.
But the Freuds were about to be toppled from power by opponents who said they were wrong about human nature. The inner self did not need to be repressed and controlled. It should be encouraged to express itself. Out of this would come a new type of strong human being and a better society. But what in fact emerged from this revolution was the very opposite. An isolated, vulnerable, and above all greedy self, far more open to manipulation by both business and politics than anything that had gone before. Those in power would now control the self, not by repressing it, but by feeding its infinite desires.
What goes on here is the liberation of feeling. In other words, feelings, not just memories that have been suppressed. For example, screaming, crying, anger. You get a person who's really angry, and they're going to let it out. No, I could kill you. I'm an old man. Listen, I can't get all the strength into this that young people would get if they have those feelings. That wasn't bad.
In the 1950s, a small group of renegade psychoanalysts began a new form of therapy. They worked in small rooms in New York City and encouraged their patients to express their feelings openly.
I want help. I do. I want help.
It was a direct attack on the ideas of the Freudian psychoanalysts, who had become rich and powerful, teaching Americans how to control their feelings.
In Freud's work, you see, they were afraid of the feelings. They believed that what they wanted was contained people, very proper, doing the right thing and living a proper life. That's what they wanted, but not an intense emotional life. Freud wasn't emotional himself. I mean, he's an intellect, Freud. I was an intellect too, I know, but I'm also more than that now.
The leader of this group was a man hated by Freud and his family. He was called Wilhelm Reich. Reich lived an isolated life in a house he had built for himself in remote mountains near the Canadian border. Reich originally had been a devoted disciple of Freud's in Vienna in the 1920s. But he had challenged Freud over the fundamental basis of psychoanalysis. Freud argued that
Hang on, I got a super chat from Naruto. Carlin, now that all likes are private on YouTube, are you going to like all the super radical tweets like Lauren Chen says she's going to? I mean, I wasn't restricting myself from liking tweets in the first place. So, I mean, I guess, but I don't know. What do you think about the likes on Twitter being private now?
I think that sucks.
Why?
I liked that you could see who liked what.
But it prevented people from liking things that they wanted to like because they were going to get, fired or something like Candace Owens.
Okay. Maybe that's a good argument. But now we don't know.
Well, people who post the tweets can still see who likes it.
They can?
Yeah.
Okay. You just can't
see
go
what other people are
snooping
liking.
around and be like, "Oh, I caught this person liking that thing." And
Exactly.
All right. Maybe that's all right.
I think this is a good thing. I think it's going to be like a more accurate gauge on what people actually think. I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I don't know if I ever had a lot of use for it, so I don't know. I can't say like, oh man, they took that thing away. I usually use that feature a lot. It doesn't bother me. I guess it doesn't matter. I'm kind of like pro transparency in general. But I don't know. I haven't thought through it a lot, so not a strong opinion on it.
All right. Fair enough.
hard, human beings were still driven by primitive animal instincts. The job of society was to repress and control these dangerous forces. Reich believed the complete opposite. The unconscious forces inside the human mind, he said, were good. It was their repression by society that distorted them. That was what made people dangerous.
Reich and Freud had two fundamentally differing views about what was essential human nature. At its core, Freud saw an uncontrolled, violent, warlike, raging inferno of emotions. Reich said these things are not the way human beings are originally destined to be. They're the result of not permitting the original impulse to express itself.
The underlying natural impulse, Reich argued, was the libido, sexual energy. If this were released, then human beings would flourish. But this idea brought him into direct conflict not only with Sigmund Freud, but Freud's daughter Anna, who believed that the sexual forces in humans were dangerous if not controlled.
My father thought that you should liberate the libido and have freedom. And he developed a theory rather early that neurosis were due to lack of good orgasm or any orgasm. And that was, Anna Freud, was a virgin. I mean, this is very important because she never had a sexual relation with a man. And here was...
She was a lesbian because she was living with that woman.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Probably.
This man preaching that the way to health was through orgasm. And here was this woman who had been analyzed by her father because she was masturbating. So here's this woman who's opposed to sexuality, really, and here's the
What do you think about like? What do you think about the groypers like repressing themselves sexually? Is this like good? Is this good or bad? I don't know. I think it's going to result in them being
I don't
weird.
think they really do.
You don't think they do?
I mean, that's sort of like what the Groyper energy is. It's a rage against the fact that I mean, that's what they're an incel movement. And incel means involuntarily celibate.
But
They
could
don't want to be celibate. They want to fuck so bad, and they can't.
I think they could get girls if they wanted to.
All right.
You don't think they could?
You think they don't want to?
I think that they might be afraid of girls. I think they might not know how to interact with girls, but I think if they got over it and went outside of their computer and stopped talking about Nick and following around Nick all day every day, then I think they could get girls. Yeah.
Let's see if you have the same opinion after you meet them.
Well, I mean, I think everyone can find someone.
Well,
You disagree?
Yeah.
I mean, some of them have girlfriends. Like, some of them are married.
Okay, well, I mean, all right, so you're just an incel denier.
I mean, I don't think that repressing yourself sexually is a good idea. And so, I mean, there is something to be
So
said
you
for
deny the existence of incels.
I deny the necessity of incels. I think that
There's no such. It's not a necessity. It's a fact of life. It's not voluntary.
I
can't. They can't get the women that they want.
But that's the thing. The women.
Okay,
that
so they got to go fuck women that they don't want to fuck.
I mean, I think if you have the expectation that you're always going to date like a 9 out of 10, that's not realistic for either men or women. You know what I'm saying? It's like they could absolutely get girls.
I mean, we can have this conversation if you want, but it's going to extend the stream. But that's not what it's about.
What is it about?
It's about the fact that women are annoying retards.
Okay, but that makes them voluntarily celibate then. That doesn't make them involuntarily celibate. It makes them voluntarily
No, it's
celibate.
because the reason that they're celibate is because they want to have a girl that they can love, and there ain't one.
Wow.
When they go out, they find, all these girls are Instagram whores who want to have a guy who makes $500,000 a year and is like 7 feet tall. And they have these, and women now have these crazy, unrealistic expectations of what a man is and what he can provide for her. And they've also been ran through by a bunch of different guys, and they want to have a connection with a girl that's a concept that feels unattainable to them.
You're telling me.
Plus the fact that these guys, many of them, didn't have good male role models in their lives. They're very awkward. They're sort of afraid of the world. Many of them have been put on psychotropic, or not psychotropic, but I mean like mood stabilizing things because they were labeled as ADHD in school. They've played too many video games. They're maladjusted to social norms, and they're nerds. So they're short, dysgenic, soyed out nerds, and they look at the world, and the women are demons now, and so they don't get to have sex.
But again, that to me seems like it's voluntary, to be honest, because they like I don't buy I just don't buy the notion that every single girl their age sucks. Girls have always sucked. Women have always sucked. Maybe they suck a little bit more now than before.
You and I will go round and round on this all the time, but like my opinion is that you have like a unrealistic, imaginary, idealistic concept of a person's ability. You think everybody can just do anything that they want if they just put their mind to it.
That's not what I'm saying. That's not the conversation we're having right now. What I'm saying is they can find girls to have sex with if they want to.
You just said the same thing that I said in a different way.
No, because that's not the conversation we're having. And I definitely don't want to get into that conversation on this stream because we will argue for like 3 hours and it'll be contentious and I don't want that.
All right, but
and it's not even the same thing that I'm talking about.
You just made a distinction.
I'm not talking about the higher
without
self.
a difference.
I'm not talking about the higher self, though.
Neither am I. I'm not talking about anything like that.
In the real world.
Yeah, in the real world, these guys can't find the woman that they want, so they don't have sex.
But I don't accept the notion that there are no girls out there that they can connect with. Like, I just don't accept it. Like, there have
That's
got
not
to
the
be.
totality of the notion, Carlin. It's not that there's zero girls out there. It's the fact that the energy required to find that needle in the haystack, they don't have that energy.
Well, okay.
So they can't
That's a
find
different
her.
thing, though.
No, it's not. It's included in the
is.
thing that I said, and you disagreed with it.
Okay. All right.
They don't have what it takes to go on that crazy heroic mission to pick out the unicorn from among the demons and find her and build a life with her. That would require an inner amount of like moxie and gumption that these soyed out medicated kids don't have. And they don't have willpower. They don't have courage. They don't have a self-belief. They don't have the power of intention. They don't have, if they had all that, then yes, they could go pull off this, they could win, but they're losers. They aren't winners. If they were winners, they would win. They're losers. So they lose. And that's what makes them incels. They don't want to lose, but they do. That's why it's involuntary. Nobody loses on purpose, but they're losing.
Human Centipede agrees with me, and Human Centipede's pretty smart, and he says that's not involuntary. They can change all that.
Exactly. Okay, so the team that loses the championship could have changed the team and won. So they lost on purpose.
Well, I don't think that's.
But they could have changed the players, and they could have changed their tactics, and they could have changed their musculature, and they could have practiced harder, and they could have ran different drills, and they could have hired a different coach.
And maybe
but they didn't. So then they lost on purpose.
But then
it was
maybe
intentional.
maybe they can learn for the next season, and they can do it better the next season.
And then they can try next season and then lose again, and then try the next season and lose again, and they can go on a losing streak. And this team never fucking wins because the Chicago Bulls are a dynasty that wins.
At some point, every team wins. The Red Sox suck.
No, not at some point every team wins.
Yes,
no,
the Red
they
Sox
don't.
sucked the entire time I lived in Boston, and then they won the fucking World Series the minute I left.
But not every team wins the World Series, Carlin. There's some teams that don't ever win it.
But even the worst team in the fucking league still wins a game here and there.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes the worst team in the league just loses all of their games and they're out.
Can you give me an example of like any sports team ever that has lost 100% of the games that they played?
I don't know. I could look it up.
Well, ChatGPT that shit.
Exist?
Go ask your girlfriend right now, please.
You. You go prove what you just said is true. There's never been a team that's lost.
Okay.
Never won.
Hang on. Let me get her
this
up
is
and
ridiculous.
get her. Oh my God. Has any sports team ever lost 100% of the games they've played? No professional sports team has lost 100% of the games they played over a full season in the major leagues such as NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL, or Premier League. Has never happened. There's never been a sports team that has lost 100% of the games that they played.
Okay.
And that's my point.
I lose then. Okay.
We should have made a bet on it.
So there's no such thing as an incel.
I'm just saying that they could do it if they wanted to. That is the point. There are people out there for everyone. And maybe they should have better role models. Okay, fine, but
they don't.
But maybe they could.
They could. Again, okay, possible versus real.
But like
possible
so
versus actual.
You don't think it's possible for them to have better role models? Jake Shields is being a better role model for them right now.
Of course, it's possible for them to stop being incels.
That's the point. It's voluntary. They're not
God.
Incels. if it's possible.
You are a retarded person who doesn't understand words.
Okay, fine. I'm a retard. Fine.
Yep. Okay, moving on.
Okay.
This man who's preaching sexual freedom. I mean, there was bound to be a clash, wasn't there?
The conflict came to a head at a conference in 1934 in Switzerland. Anna Freud, who had by now become the acknowledged leader of the psychoanalytic movement, forced Wilhelm Reich out. She destroyed his career.
She got rid of him, very definitely. And I guess part of what I'm doing is getting rid of her.
Explain.
Well, I think that Anna Freud shouldn't get away with what she did, that it should be known, maneuvering to get him kicked out of the International Psychoanalytic Association.
So you're taking revenge.
You might say so, right? Or wronging a right. No, righting a wrong. You better cut that one out.
Isn't that called a Freudian slip?
Yes, it is.
Reich fled to the United States and built his home and a laboratory. His ideas became grandiose to the point of madness. He was convinced that he had discovered the source of libidinal energy. He called it orgone energy, and Reich built a giant
Orgone,
which he said could capture this energy from the atmosphere
What?
and concentrate it onto clouds to produce rain.
sweet.
He also said that the gun
Sex
could
cloud.
be used to destroy UFOs, which threatened the future of the world. In 1956, Reich was arrested by the federal authorities for selling a device that he said used orgone energy to cure cancer.
Whoa.
Reich was treated as a madman. He was imprisoned, and all his books and papers burnt on the order of the court. A year later, Reich died in prison. To the Freudians, it seemed as if their main threat had been removed forever. But they were wrong. What the Freudians didn't realize was that their influence in American society was also about to be challenged, and in a way that would lead not only to their decline, but to the dramatic resurgence of Reich's ideas in America and throughout the capitalist world.
Capitalist world.
The consumer is king. His whim makes or unmakes manufacturers, wholesalers, and retailers. Whoever wins his confidence wins the game. Whoever loses his confidence is lost.
By the late 50s, psychoanalysis had become deeply involved in driving consumerism in America. Most advertising companies employed psychoanalysts, and as last week's episode showed, they had created new ways to understand consumers' motives, above all with the focus group, in which consumers free associated their feelings about products. Out of this came new ways to market products by appealing to the hidden unconscious desires of the consumer.
Neutral stimulus,
Memorability,
sheer deception,
great. Tilt away steering wheel.
A twin saying the mistress.
Something intimate is going on.
But in the early 60s, a new generation emerged who attacked this. They accused American business of using psychological techniques to manipulate people's feelings and turn them into ideal consumers.
Advertising was manipulation. It was a way to get you to do something that didn't come out of you. It came out of somebody else. Somebody else said, this year you should be wearing powder pink shirts with matching powder pink buck shoes. And I said, why? That's not who I am. That's who somebody else is. They wanted you to be somebody who would buy their stuff. This whole feeling of being somebody else's tool. I don't want to be that. I don't want to be somebody else's man. I want to be me.
In the mid-60s, a protest movement began on America's campuses. One of the students' main targets was corporate America. They accused the corporations of breaking.
One of the main targets was corporate America. Gee, what does that sound like? Say it, please. Please, 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 please. What does that sound like, please?
Jews.
Does that sound like so? Thank you. So you just made up for calling me a retard on the internet. Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome, retard.
Brainwashing the American public. Consumerism was not just a way of making money, it had become the means of keeping the masses docile, while allowing the government to pursue a violent and illegal war in Vietnam. The student's mentor was a famous radical philosopher called Herbert Marcuse. Marcuse had studied psychoanalysis and was a fierce critic of the Freudians. They had, he said, helped to create a world in which people were reduced to expressing their feelings and identities through mass-produced objects. It resulted in what he called one-dimensional man, conformist and repressed. The psychoanalysts had become the corrupt agents of those who ruled America.
It was one of the most striking phenomena to see to what extent the ruling power structure could manipulate, manage, and control not only the consciousness, but also the subconscious and unconscious of the individuals. And this took place on a psychological basis by the controls and the manipulation of the unconscious primary drive, which Freud stipulated.
Think about it, dear American people out there.
You hear him, huh?
You're all brainwashed, kiddies. You're all brainwashed. That's why you're here. They're saying right now, kill the bum. Look, I look at you in the living room. You know, you're saying, kill me.
Following the logic of Marcuse's argument, the new student left set out to attack this system of social control. It was summed up in the slogan, "There is a policeman inside all our heads. He must be destroyed." And that policeman was going to be destroyed by overthrowing the state and the corporations that had put him there. One group.
So according to Marcuse, who's like one of the philosophers that is driving the far left right now, the policemen in our heads will be overcome when we get rid of corporatism. And socialists hate policemen more than like anything else. They want to abolish the police more than anything else. So this is all pretty leftist.
Yeah, very. So, but here's the interesting setup, though. If you go back, it was Freud and Bernays and the psychoanalysts who developed this way of propagandizing, and then they sold that propaganda method to the corporations, which then set up the scenario to rebel against and tear down the corporations because they were now seen as the new thought implanting agency. So it was to sow. It kind of like, it's not just against, it's not just purely against the capitalism as a concept, but the way that capitalism became a propaganda machine. And then and by propaganda, we mean, all the things that come along with it, which is the sense of self that was being intentionally manipulated into the minds of people. And then there was a counter movement to break away from that, which meant breaking away. So there's a weird identification with, the thing that we call capitalism. It isn't just, it's not pure, it's, again, this is why I say it's where it's like,
how are you defining that?
There was an influence on those corporate structures by the psychoanalysts that came from Germany. They turned it into a mind control program, and then it was like a rebel against the system because the system got corrupted.
Or did the system get corrupted, or was the system always corrupted?
Which one did I say?
You said the system got corrupted.
Yeah, that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
The system itself isn't inherently the issue. The issue is that it acquired this witchcraft magic through psychoanalysts telling them, here's how you can mind control people. And then people started seeing the mind control and then rebelled against, but they didn't just rebel against the mind control, they rebelled against the agency that was employing it. So, but before that, it was not the same. Like if you have a guy in your town who's a merchant, and he's acquiring goods, I need a piece of repair for my buggy, and I need a new tool for my farm. I need to buy some materials for my wife to make clothes with and stuff. And he's ordering it through catalogs, and you're picking it up from him, and you're bartering and exchanging, you're buying it. Is that capitalism? Yeah. Is that what these people are rebelling against? No. So it's not just capitalism, though. It's like capitalism in America became a system of like mind control through this thing that we just watched in the first two parts of the series. That's what I'm saying.
But the people that are rebelling against it in this part of the show, they are rebelling against that guy that was just buying stuff for his wife. They were then and they are now. They don't want that to exist. They call it petit bourgeois.
It came so much later, and it was that again. Who invented all of this?
No, it goes back.
war?
Well, I mean, Marcuse was one of the people who was driving this. Marcuse is who people reference all the time today. And it was like it's like what is happening today mirrored what was happening. This is like 1968, right?
Yeah, but my scenario, it was a small mercantile store. I mean, I just said
But
he
they
gets a
don't-
part for his buggy. I'm talking about like in the 1800s. I'm talking
what-
about the Wild West. I'm talking about all of human history.
Yeah,
there was a
but
merchant, and that was different than
understand
what
that.
Marcuse
I
is
understand
raging
that,
against
but
after
what-
the Freudists.
But what but there's still those types of merchants that exist today. There's still those types of small business where it's just like a guy that has like a general store out in like there are a ton of those in New Hampshire. And like there are lots of small businesses that exist like that. And these people don't want those businesses to exist either.
And why?
Because it's private property ownership and it means that they'll have more resources than other people, which is inherently bad because it creates a hierarchy. So they want to eliminate all hierarchies. That's what all this is about. Like all the protests and stuff in 1968 is the same thing it's about today.
If you say so. Okay.
All right.
The Weathermen began a series of bomb attacks on companies that they said both controlled people's minds through consumer products and made the weapons being used in Vietnam.
There's no way to be committed to nonviolence in the middle of the most violent society that history's ever
The Weather
created.
Underground.
I'm not
That's
committed
what
to
Angela Davis
nonviolence
was
in
in.
any way.
You know much about the Weather Underground?
A life that
is not a whole heck of a lot, except that I have to watch Angela Davis like a lot. What do you know about the Weather Underground?
A little bit. I'm not going to do a deep dive on it right now, but you should. You should. I would really.
I know
find
I
it to be
should.
fascinating. You really should.
No, I know that. It's on the
yeah.
it's on the list of 86 things I have to do at any given
Yeah, I
time.
know. I mean, I just mean like you should because it would be great content for your stream. Your audience, you'd find like incredible, a trove of like new discoveries there. It's amazing. Anybody who's into, by the way, I bet you know about the band Rage Against the Machine.
Yes, of course.
That's where that comes from for them too.
Mhm.
Like they
I
make
think I did
direct
know that,
reference to the
actually.
Weather Underground a lot, but like that's their energy comes from that movement.
I think I did know that. Can you give us a too long didn't read on what you know about the Weather Underground?
Yeah, like a no. What would I say? They were just sort of like a dissident left, anti-establishment, sometimes violent, literally underground movement. I think there wasn't like a journal that they were spreading, but just like a leftist. It's like early Antifa, sort of.
Mm-hmm.
That's the TLDR.
All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't based on materialistic values, and yet the whole system of government and the economy of America is based on profit, on personal greed and selfishness. So that in order to be human, in order to love each other and be equal with each other and not place each other in roles, we have to destroy the kind of government that keeps us
they're
from
communist.
asserting our positive values of life.
But the American state fought back violently. At the Democratic Convention in Chicago in 1968,
Oh,
the police and the National
they're trying to recreate that this year. I might go to this because people in my community are going to put me up in Chicago, and one person lives like right near the convention center, and she said I can film from the roof and stuff. And so there's a whole movement on the left to try to recreate the riots from 1968 this year because they're having their convention in Chicago in the exact same place.
Sweet.
Yeah, it's gonna be great.
I hope they do.
I hope they do too. I want to go to a good riot. I haven't been to a riot in a long time. I haven't gotten chased down the street in 4 years.
I hope you live stream it.
I did the last time.
That'd be sweet. Content.
Oh yeah.
National Guard were unleashed to attack thousands of demonstrators. It was the start of a phase of ruthless repression of the New Left in America. It culminated in the killing of 4 students at Kent State University 18 months later. In the face of this, the left began to fall apart.
We had met the force of the state. It was much bigger and stronger and more powerful than we realized. And at that point, what seemed to happen was that there was a change in tactics.
Confronted by this violent repression, many in the New Left began to turn to a new idea. If it was impossible to get the policeman out of one's head by overthrowing the state, instead one should find a way of getting inside one's own mind and removing the controls implanted there by the state and the corporations.
Oh my God.
There we go.
They're talking about decolonizing the mind.
Yep.
Oh my God.
Out of this would come a new self, and thus a new society.
People who had been politically active were persuaded that if they could change themselves and be healthy individuals, and if a movement grew up just aimed at people changing themselves, then at some point, all that positive change going on, well, you could say quantity would become quality, and there would be a sort of a spontaneous transformation of society. But political activism was not required.
It's about making a new you, that if enough people changed the way they were, that the society would change.
So the personal became political.
Yes, the personal became political. Without changing the personal, you didn't stand a chance of changing the political. Coming up against the state power of the United States was not an option. I mean, they outgunned us.
And to produce the new self, they turned to the ideas and techniques of Wilhelm Reich. Since his death, a small group of psychotherapists have been developing techniques based on Reich's ideas. Their aim was to invent ways that would allow individuals to free themselves from the controls implanted in their minds by society. Their center was a tiny old motel on the remote coast of California. It was called the Esalen Institute. The dominant figure at Esalen was a psychoanalyst called Fritz Perls. Perls had been trained by Reich and had developed a form of group encounter in which he pushed individuals to publicly express
What kind of
the feelings
ethnicity do you think
inside
that guy
them
is?
that society
hang
had
on,
said were dangerous.
What'd you say?
So what kind of ethnicity do you think Fritz Perls is?
Oh, well, I can maybe guess that he might be Jewish.
Yeah, so he sets up this institute in California, starts bringing everybody in and teaching them how to decolonize their minds. Nice.
Nice.
Publicly express the feelings inside them that society had said were dangerous and should be repressed.
It's a basic fear of that thing inside me, like a little demon in there. It doesn't come out very often. It's really hard to get it out.
Now put the thing inside you on that chair and talk to it.
Perls used to call this getting on the hot seat in front of a group. If this were the hot seat and you were Perls, and you would guide me into this process of self-enactment, self-revelation, of staying present to all the parts of yourself and noticing it, and then taking ownership of this.
As the demon.
Yeah.
Yes, I can come out. I can come right out of him, and I can push him aside.
You, see you.
I can push you aside.
Yeah. Be the demon with each one of us.
I can make you all cry. I can make you all feel terrible. Maybe even forever. I can make this mouth here, do things and say things. I can almost destroy anyone, each one of you, if I get out. There isn't one of you that I would spare. Not even you.
Yeah. How do you feel now?
I feel better. I mean, I feel very honest.
Yeah. And you notice the increase of power.
In other words, taking ownership of who you are and how you act and how you feel, your whole being in the world. In other words, giving you autonomy, owning your freedom.
I'm frightening. When I have my power, I am frightening.
See, I frighten you with my power.
I frighten you with my power.
Now, where do you feel your power? In your hands? In your muscles?
This looks fun. I want to go to this.
What the hell?
Wake up.
I want to do for me.
This is like improv.
Yeah.
Okay. Stop it.
You. It was not the only movement. That's what I wanted to do, and I did it.
Sweet.
What Pearls and others working at Esalen believed was that they were creating ways that allowed individuals to express their true inner selves.
I want them to applaud for me.
Out of this, they believed,
Wow.
would come new autonomous beings free of social conditioning. To the left, defeated in the wake of Chicago, it was an enormously attractive idea. These techniques could be used to unleash a new, powerful self, strong enough to overthrow the old order. In the late 60s and early 70s, thousands flocked to Esalen. Only a few years before, it had been an obscure fringe institute. Now it became the center of a national movement for personal transformation, the Human Potential Movement.
So it became magnetic. People wanted to join this stream of exploration. Within 7 or 8 years, there were about 200 of these centers in America, looking mainly to Esalen for the leadership.
I feel so liberated.
Really? It's fantastic.
And it took on a big political agenda. You could not separate personal transformation from social transformation. The two go together.
As the movement grew, the leaders of Esalen decided to try and use their techniques to solve social problems. They began with racism.
No!
They organized an encounter group for white and black radicals.
So this is like the social justice left.
Yeah, this is the beginning of it. Really, in a way.
So that really pisses me off on like a number of different levels. Because I feel like these like woo movements about like personal development and just making your life better and like all that stuff, it inevitably transforms into like, we're gonna like hijack this to do, well, they think they're doing good things, but they're not.
Yeah, well, they're dabbling in this. What if we liberate our minds from the inner policeman? And then they start trying these different techniques, and you're going to see right here, they're going to discover, wow, when we made the races yell hate at each other, holy shit, that really set it free.
Mm-hmm.
Watch.
Both groups would be encouraged to express their inner racist feelings, which had been instilled in them by society. By doing this, they would transcend those feelings and encounter each other as individuals.
I started a series of encounters called Racial Confrontation as Transcendental Experience. We thought that we wanted to get that kind of black-white confrontation so you could really get down to see what was between the two races, not by backing off and trying to be polite, but by going right into the belly of the beast, of this beast of racial prejudice. And these were extremely dramatic. These were the toughest workshops ever convened at Esalen Institute.
I'm looking at you, Whitey. You got clothes on. You got shoes on.
You're so sure looking at me, huh?
You got the goddamn police in the neighborhood.
Really? They're not my
You got a governor. You got a mayor.
Oh, really?
You got the president. You got ambassadors.
You can vote too.
You got debts in Vietnam. That's the benefits of slave labor. You got buildings, skyscrapers that you dominate and control economically and politically. And tell me that it's not yours.
It's yours too.
Then the blacks all got together and attacked the whites. And they just let us have it. What they call it was peeping somebody. Peeping somebody means peeping into their secrets, into their phoniness and so forth. Like the white liberal. Oh, they really got onto the white liberal, you know.
So don't give me no shit about I'm free. You're a goddamn liar, you white pink son of a bitch, you. Yeah, I want to know what you came down here for. You want a black buck, huh? Yeah. You looking for a stud? Huh? Well, what did you come here for? You sitting there with your legs all gap wide open, showing your drawers. Now, what did you come here for?
The black-white encounter groups were...
What do you think would happen if they did this again today?
It kind of feels like they have done that. I don't know. It's just sort of like en masse.
How do you
But
mean?
they're doing it in like a weird passive-aggressive way. It just sort of like moved into popular parlance, and now it's just sort of everybody has just absorbed it. Like, oh yeah, they hate us for good reason. Like everybody just heard them out and went, okay, I understand. I don't know. But what do you think? If they did this today with everybody yelling at each other, that would actually be that'd be kind of great.
I want to see like the white liberal Karens do it.
Yeah.
I think that would be hilarious.
Yeah, that'd be good. Actually, good idea. We should just do it again. Set it up exactly like this. Go off.
You should stage this on your Kick channel. I think.
Yeah. Race wars. Race wars. Just do race wars debate panels.
Oh God, that's definitely not going to get you in trouble at all.
That'd be sweet. Yeah, dude. Nice. Actually, not a bad idea.
You should do that. I would watch it. I wouldn't go on it. I would watch it.
Disaster. The black radicals saw it as an insidious attempt to destroy their power. By trying to turn them into liberated individuals, Esalen was removing the one thing that gave them power and confidence in their struggle against racism, their collective identity as blacks.
For my reason. For your reason. Dig this. Your reason for being here is different from my reason.
So the human potential movement turned to another social group who they believed would benefit from personal transformation. Nuns. And this time, they were more successful. The Convent of the Immaculate Heart in Los Angeles was one of the largest seminaries in America. A group of radical psychotherapists approached the convent. They wanted to try out their techniques for personal liberation on individuals whose identities were defined by a series of external rules which they had deeply internalized. The convent, anxious to appear modern, agreed to the experiment.
And we did weekend encounter workshops for several hundred Immaculate Heart nuns. Nuns who were reserved, and they tended to be more reserved than other normal people, were told, don't be so reserved, let it all out. You're a good person. You can afford to be who you really are. You don't need to play the role of a nun. You don't need to keep downcast eyes. Prudence is an oversold virtue.
You're trying to assert yourself, trying to find out who you are, who you're becoming. At the same time, you're trying to live a life of dedication, of service.
She looks like my mom.
And you're trying to make all these things fit into who you are. And you're just,
mom have hair like that?
It's such a turmoil at times that you just blow a gasket and do silly, crazy things. Running around the orchard and stealing oranges and taking Cokes out of the refrigerator and crazy things.
I felt like I was being a hypocrite, and I wanted people to respect me for what I was, not for what I was wearing. And so I'm glad for the change.
You feel frightened, but you'll go on.
Oh yeah, I'm scared to death, but it's worth it.
The experiment began to transform the convent. The nuns voted to discard their habits in favor of ordinary clothes. But the psychotherapists found they had awoken other forces.
One of the things we unleashed was sexual energy, the kind of thing that the church had been very good at restraining was no longer to be restrained. One sister who was a member of the community, she got the idea that she could be freer than she had been before, and she seduced one of her classmates and then seduced the mistress of novices, who was an older woman, very reserved, and her program of freeing this older woman was sexual. She drove her to the store, and when they drove back and drove into the garage, she leaned over and gave her a big kiss on the lips. And thereafter, sister, who had perhaps never been kissed before, was ready for more.
The effect of the experiment on the convent was cataclysmic.
Naughty.
Within a year,
Always the
300
nuns.
nuns, more than half the convent, petitioned the Vatican to be released from their vows.
Yeah.
And 6 months later, the convent closed its doors.
Wow.
All that was left was a small group of nuns. But they had become radical lesbian nuns. The rest gave up the religious life.
No.
They did. Yeah, they became persons.
Radical lesbian
Either
nuns.
the
See,
idea of
okay, here's the
self-exploration.
thing. We're going to go back to this. If nuns can get fucking laid, you're telling me that groypers can't get laid? Like, I don't buy it. I'm sorry. This is ridiculous.
Oh my God.
You're telling me that fucking nuns in the 60s can get laid, but incels can't get laid? They can
weren't
get
even
laid.
getting laid. They
Well,
were scissoring.
they're nuns.
Yeah, so the incels can all turn gay is your point.
I mean, I think that everyone can find someone to sleep with if they
Yeah,
want
all
to.
right. So the groypers can all fuck each other. Exactly. And they don't want to. You just made my point.
Fine.
But women can,
like,
it's
no,
women,
this
it's
is so
it's so stupid to say that, oh, these women were able to get laid, therefore these young men with nothing to their name could get laid.
Yes.
Women literally just have to say, I am available for sex, and then
Oh, come on.
sex will show up.
Come on. Listen, like, okay, yes, that's kind of true, and I don't
Yes,
like discount
it's
that.
true.
But I also know that, listen, like,
Bitch, you fucking hired a mover and said, hey, want a date? And you married the guy.
well, he had a sexy accent, all right? And so what was
See?
I
And
what
so
was
you
I
had-
to do?
so you
What
were
was I
just
to
like-
do? He picked up a fucking piece of heavy
But
furniture.
my
like,
point is,
but my
the
but my
groyper can't
point
just
is-
call a house cleaner and she comes over and he's like, hey, you want to get married? She's like, oh, I was waiting for somebody to ask me. Like, that's not how it
Why
works.
not? Why
Because
not?
he doesn't have any money. Because he's
Oh,
a
for
fucking
fuck's
broke
sake.
little fruitcake.
So what? My husband didn't have any money when I met him. Like,
But you did.
I
And
mean,
he wasn't an incel. He was a Chad who could lift furniture.
Well, I don't know that I would call my husband a Chad, although I love him, but like I don't know that I would call him a Chad.
Groypers
But, like,
can't move furniture.
why not?
They're tiny.
Why can't they go work for the
Because
movers
they're
for the
little
summer?
nerds.
But you guess what? If they go work for the movers for the summer, they're going to get muscular and they're going to be able to lift furniture.
But they can't even get jobs because they're antisocial and they have
Oh
ADD
my
and they can't
God.
show up on time.
Oh
They're
my
misfits.
God. Oh, you're telling me that they can like the groypers are so fucking motivated that they are literally dragging the conservative movement along like behind them, but they can't go get a fucking job working for
Their
a mover?
superpower is sitting online and typing little sarcastic insults.
So what? You can get a job doing that. You can get many jobs doing that. Like now more than ever.
You, no offense, but you are a retarded person. Let's move on.
I don't
No offense. All due
agree.
respect,
I don't
but you're
agree.
retarded and
I don't
stupid
agree.
as shit.
Listen,
All due
I
respect,
have never
but your
been-
brain doesn't work.
I have never been the hottest girl. I've never been the thinnest girl. I have been with really fucking hot guys, and it wasn't even that hard.
You
And it
are
wasn't
a
just
girl!
No, but they could have had.
You
any
have a
other girl. I'm
vagina.
sorry. So what? They could have had other girls.
Girls
Like, it
aren't
didn't have to be me.
incels. Girls aren't incels. Girls
well,
aren't
I think
incels.
that's
Girls aren't
not true.
incels.
That's
Girls
not
aren't
true. Some of
incels.
them are.
Girls aren't
But
incels.
the point
Girls
is,
aren't incels. Girls aren't incels.
that's not actually true.
Oh my God. Okay. 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 Okay.
Seriously?
Like, you want to like
Fine.
tell me
Fine.
things
Fine.
aren't what they
Fine.
are? I mean,
Fine.
then fine.
Fine. We disagree.
Yeah.
Was spreading rapidly in America. Encounter groups became the center of what was seen as a radical alternative culture based on the development of the self, free of a corrupt capitalist culture.
Free of a corrupt capitalist culture. Hello.
To be ourselves, and that's for love, for experience.
See, a corrupt
positive way of life.
capitalism.
They think all capitalism is corrupt.
We just want to be free to be what we want to be, or what we find ourselves to be, as we continue to search ourselves.
And it was beginning to have a serious effect on corporate America, because these new selves were not behaving as predictable consumers. The life insurance industry in particular was concerned that fewer and fewer college students were buying life insurance when they left university. They asked Daniel Yankelevich, America's leading market researcher, to investigate. He had studied psychoanalysis.
The life insurance business, more than any other business at the time, was built on the Protestant ethic. You only bought life insurance if you were a person who sacrificed for the future. If you lived in the present, you had no need for life insurance. So they had some sense that maybe the sort of core values of the Protestant ethic were being challenged by some of these new values that were beginning to appear. And I was really astonished at what I found. The conventional interpretation, the dominant interpretation, was that it had to do with political radicalism. But, it was clear to us that that was a mask, a cover. The core of it had to do with self-expressiveness. That this preoccupation with the self and the inner self, that was what was so important to people. The ability to be self-expressive.
Wow, what a feeling. 300 miles to go. What out of sight.
Yankelovich began to track the growth and behavior of these new expressive selves. What he told the corporations was that these new beings were consumers, but they no longer wanted anything that would place them within the narrow strata of American society. Instead, what they wanted were products that would express their individuality, their difference in a conformist world, the very things that US corporations did not make.
Products have always had an emotional meaning. What was new was individuality. The idea that this product expresses me, and whether it was a small European car, the particular music system, your presentation of self, your clothing.
Is she getting fucked?
For immediate energy from our muscles and
These become ways in which people can expend their money in order to say to the world who they are. But the manufacturers, they had no idea of what was going on really with consumers and in the market at large.
Major advertising companies set up what they called operating groups to try and work out how to appeal to these new individuals. The head of one agency sent a memo to all staff. We must conform, he told them, to the new nonconformists. We must listen to the music of Bobby Dylan and go to the theatre more. But the problem was, few of the self-expressive individuals would take part in focus groups. The advertisers were left to their own devices.
There's a new cereal that tastes so right. Makes you dance, it's a way out of sight. It's tasty little squares of malted wheat. It's crispy and it's crunchy and it tastes so neat. Faster though.
That's what I'm saying. Use a folk rock with more rock than folk.
And there was an even more serious problem. To make products for people who wanted to express themselves would mean creating variety. But the systems of mass production that had been developed in America were only profitable if they made large numbers of the same objects. This had fitted perfectly with the limited range of desires of a conformist society. The expressive self threatened this whole system of manufacture. And the threat was about to grow rapidly.
Go!
Because an entrepreneur had invented a way of mass producing this new independent self.
You can do that. They do retreats where you go out into the woods and yell and scream and things.
I would
It's
do
mostly
that.
for women, but
Perfect. I want to go to a retreat with a bunch of women. We lay around and scream. It seems awesome.
that sounds like a great idea. Nothing could go wrong with that plan.
It seems like totally insane, and I want to try it. That looks like a good time. Bunch of weirdos.
I don't know
around, he's screaming.
I could go for like a day. I don't know if I could go for much longer than that.
I want to live. I want to live that lifestyle.
No, I don't think.
I want to be a camp counselor at the retreat center where they just do this all the time.
Why? What do you think that will do for you?
It just seems goofy and funny. I just want to be around people who are doing this stuff. This is my kind of people.
Okay, weirdo.
Yeah, I'm weird.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
He was called Werner Erhard.
Some of the stuff that we traditionally think of as being in your mind is actually in the world, because you're moving to that too.
Erhard had invented a system called EST, Erhard Seminar Training. Hundreds of people came for weekend sessions to be taught how to be themselves. And EST was soon copied by other groups.
I'm asking my chat, is this cult thing that you guys have been trying to get me to look into? I know Human Centipede wants me to look into this.
Like exegesis in Britain. Many of Erhard's techniques came from the
anybody who
human
names
potential
themselves
he
Human
criticised the
Centipede
movement for not having gone far.
probably. I bet he's got good advice. You should probably.
He actually
listen to
really does. Human Centipede is fucking brilliant, and he helps me find radical anarcho-communist stuff to read, and he's awesome. And he's gotten Jack Posobiec to talk about what we're doing and to share stuff that James Lindsay won't share for us. So Human Centipede's the best.
Nice.
Do you have an opinion about the movies, the Human Centipede movies?
No, but
have you seen them?
No, I haven't.
You've never seen.
I got the TLDR.
You've never seen Human. You have to watch Human Centipede. You have to. It's like a rite of passage.
Okay. All right.
You have to. You got to watch Killer Clowns first, and then watch Human Centipede.
All right. All right.
Are enough. Their idea that there was a central core inside all human beings was, he said, just another limitation on human freedom. In reality, there was no fixed self, which meant that you could be anything that you wanted to be.
This is what Carlin
believes. The
believes.
thesis of the human potential movement
I
was
do believe
that there was
this.
something really good down in there. And if you took these layers off, what you're going to wind up with is a kernel.
I got it. Triggered. I knew it. Under the skin. Nailed it.
We're gonna keep fighting, goddammit. No, you can't be like, this is stupid though. Why would you want to prevent people from like having aspirations? Like, this is like, why would you tell people you can never get laid? That is so stupid, because then they're gonna have in their head you can never get laid and they will never get fucking laid. Like, why would you limit people's aspirations? This makes no sense. If you don't believe you can do something, you're never going to be able to do it.
It's not telling them they can never get laid. They're not getting laid.
So?
Do you have you heard about like the red pill community of like the pickup artists and the Riz coaches and
that's stupid. That's stupid.
That's the reason that industry exists, is because those guys are catering to dudes who don't know how to do it.
Well, but I mean, I can understand.
And they're giving them solutions to like looks maxing, and Andrew Tate is like giving them and sneak going, and they're like, and there's all these guys that are like, if you live like this and you learn how to hustle and grind and stack some cash and like enhance your features and hit the gym and learn how to riz a girl with NLP and all this crazy stuff, they're learning how to like hack around their limitations, but they currently are limited, which is another way of saying separated from the thing that they want.
But
so it's like what you're saying is akin to like if you said like a person who's a prisoner in a jail, and I'm saying they're involuntarily incarcerated, and you're like, well, they could break out of the jail, so it's voluntary to stay.
No,
in.
that's not remotely the same thing. There's a difference between an actual prison and a prison that you have created for yourself because of how you're looking at the situation. Those are two completely different things.
No, it's not. No, they're just looking at the situation wrong. They're not realizing that there's a solution to get out of this prison. And if they only just learned how to if they could steal this from over here from the supply room and chisel through the wall and dig a tunnel, and if they just had the will to dig and dig and dig for 2 years, they could get a tunnel. And
yes, but like if you don't,
so they're voluntarily prisoners then, because they could find a way to tunnel out.
This is not remotely the same thing. Like breaking out of prison is not the same thing as being
a
laid.
Short, fat retard with a tiny dick and no money is a prison in terms of being able to get laid.
They can do things about all those things.
Right. They could break free from that situation with a bunch of hard work if somebody taught them how. Yeah, I know.
There are plenty of short, fat retards with small dicks that have gotten laid.
How?
In the past.
How did they do that? How do they do that?
I don't know, but I fucking almost
And
married one
neither
when
do
I was
they.
22
They
years
don't know
old.
how.
So but you can, like, you just have to you have to
You just have to become a different person than you are.
No, it's not about that. It's about believing that something is possible, and maybe it doesn't happen
Oh,
overnight.
it's about
Okay,
belief.
fine.
Right. You live in like Naruto anime world. It's just like if you just believe it hard enough, you can make it happen.
Well, it's not just about that. You then you have to be able to visualize it, and then you take action towards the thing that you want. That's that's how you manifest shit. It's not just about having the emotions of that you're going to have when that thing turns up. It's
And
also
do these
about
guys
taking
know how
action.
to do that?
Well, they can figure it out.
But do they know how?
They can figure it out. A lot of them are really smart.
It's weird how you won't answer the question directly. Do they know how?
Does anyone know how they're going to manifest anything? When you're manifesting, you're not supposed to know how. You're just supposed to have a visualization. You know this. You're supposed to have a visualization. You're supposed to feel the feelings that you have when that thing shows up. You take proactive.
But they don't know how to do that.
But they can learn how to do that, and I know because I've heard you teaching them on your streams how to do that.
Yeah. So they can learn. So
but
they can
some people
stop
do this
being
naturally.
incels. Sure, but currently they are incels. They can stop being it, but they are it. They can stop. But after they stop being incels, they won't be incels. That doesn't mean they're not incels now.
But the point is that if they have people around them saying, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this.
Nobody's doing that.
It's never gonna. You've been doing it all night. Like it's never gonna occur to them to do. Yes, you have. They can't. They can't. They can't. They can't. They can't. Like that's a horrible thing to say to people.
It doesn't mean they can't ever.
Well, this is my fucking point.
But okay, so you're adding a word onto what I'm saying and then arguing against that? Is that what you're saying?
This is what I've been saying from the beginning.
Is something so from the beginning you've been arguing against something that I'm not saying.
But I mean, it kind of seems like you're arguing against something that I'm not saying. From the beginning, I've said
no. I'm arguing against the fact that you're saying the incels don't exist, which is insane. There's no such thing as being involuntarily celibate. They're clearly choosing it. And I'm like, they don't know how to make a different choice. But they could make a different choice if they knew how to. And I'm like, but they don't. So they can't.
But if they have,
but they could if they had a different brain.
But if they have people around, if they have people around them saying that they can't do this, then they're never even going to see the possibility of making a different choice. Does it require people around them, not like putting them in a box and saying you are this and you are a short, fat, small dicked retard, and you will always.
And all
be
the girls are whores, and they've all been
retard?
hypnotized by mass media and Instagram and OnlyFans, and like every girl that you meet is a total little tramp, and you don't want to touch her anyway, and she's not interested in you, and you're in a world that's like a desert of pussy.
You're telling me there are no girls out there that aren't Instagram fucking OnlyFans whores. There are zero girls out there that are outside of that category.
No, I'm not saying there's zero water in the desert, but it's arid.
I don't know.
There's a level of precipitation in the desert that's far lower than other regions. And these people live in a pussy desert. Like their options are so slim, and the amount of effort required to overcome their situation, feels insurmountable to them.
I reject this notion. Hang on.
What that means is that they have a feeling of pent up anxiety and aggression about that.
No, I reject. So you got someone in your chat saying women will never understand because all they need to do is spread their legs and a thirsty man will enter. That's not true either. Like, I'm sorry, that is just not true. That might be like the incel perception of it, but that's just not true.
Okay.
Like women do actually have to do things in order to get laid. Maybe you can make the argument that it's easier. Okay, fine, I can accept that argument. Maybe you can make the argument that women can always walk into a bar and find sex if they really are that desperate to get laid. Yeah, okay, fine. But like if you don't want just like really fucking sloppy sex with like gross people, you do actually have to work at it a little bit. It's not like just a given that women can get laid like at any time with any guy that they want. So I get like, but like, I don't get this at all. Like, I don't get why. Oh God, now they're really mad at me. Whatever. I don't even care. I don't even care because it's correct. All right. You guys can fucking get laid if you want to. And it's not as easy for women as all of you seem to think. What?
No, tell me more about what it's like to be a man.
What? Well,
Keep
tell me
going.
more about what it's like to be a woman.
I'm not trying to, but you're telling me what it's like to be a man.
I'm responding to the chat. Like you, and you said it too. Women can just get laid whenever. No, they can't. That's not real.
Women have to be
work at it.
careful not to get laid.
I don't think that that's true.
They literally have to protect themselves from rape.
Well, yeah, fine.
Yeah.
But that, but
Men
most men,
don't.
but most men, well, most men
hunt, women get hunted. Okay?
It's not like women have to protect themselves from getting raped all day, every day. This isn't something that's top of mind for most women.
Yeah, but I'm saying it's a phenomenon that exists for women and not for men. I mean, we're just different. I mean, okay? There's like,
yeah, fine.
women,
But
men are out there like, hey, will you let me in? And women are like, women control the commodity. They're like, will sex happen? It's up to me, yes or no. That's the decision is in the hands of the woman.
Yeah, I don't know that I always agree with that at all. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Tell me about what it's like to be a woman. Jesus.
A something that was innately self-expressive, that was the true self, that was going to be a wonderful thing. In actuality, you found people who'd gone to the last layer and took off the last layer and found that what was left was nothing.
All right, push! Move! Do it!
The S sessions were intense and often brutal. The participants signed contracts agreeing not to leave and to allow the trainers to do anything they thought necessary to break down their socially constructed identities.
You're gonna get sandwiched in there. Push! Go for a win! If I push harder than you do, I'm gonna squash you. So you better push fast. Now, hard, do it! That's it, do it again! Push! Good! 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 Again! Yes!
The real point to the S training was to go down through layer
They
after
just fixed
layer
that incel.
after layer after layer until you got to the last layer and peeled it off, where the recognition was that it's really all meaningless and empty.
Oh, this is awesome. I want to go to this so bad. Everybody, this is so cool.
Now, that's existentialism's endpoint. S went a step further in that people began to recognize that it was not only meaningless and empty, but it was empty and meaningless that it was empty and meaningless. And in that, there's an enormous freedom. All the constrictions, all of the rules you've placed on yourself are gone. And what you're left with is nothing. And nothing is an extraordinarily powerful place to stand, because it is only from nothing that you can create. And from this nothing, people were able to invent a life, and allowing them to create.
Yeah, I'm with Reagan. We should all go to that. We should all go to that thing.
Invent themselves. You can be what you want to be.
I want you to start to
Scream
make
at the
that
ceiling.
sound. And on that sound,
We have our own retreat where we go scream at this. We just create our own retreat and do this.
That's what AFPAC should be.
What
If
Earhart did
AFPAC was like that, I would go.
was to say that only the individual matters, that there is no societal concern, that you living a fulfilled life is all you need be concerned about. Est people came out of those trainings feeling that it wasn't selfish to think about yourself. It was your highest duty.
So kiss me and smile for me. Tell me that you'll wait for me. Hold me like you'll never let me go.
The training is 2 weekends, and it was quite an incredible experience in my life. I'll forever be grateful for the experience. I got a great deal out of it. We really want to know who we are. There are things going on. We learn more and more about ourselves all the time. and to really find out what it is that makes us tick and how we are discovering ourselves.
Est became hugely successful. Singers, film stars, and hundreds of thousands of ordinary Americans underwent the training in the 1970s. But in the process, the political idea that had begun the movement for personal transformation began to disappear. The original vision had been that through discovering and expressing the self, a new culture would be born, one that would challenge the power of the state.
All of this is about
We will
communism.
not let them separate our culture from our politics. We are a people. We are all together.
But what was now emerging was the idea that people could be happy simply within themselves, and that changing society was irrelevant. One of the proponents of this was Jerry Rubin.
So that's the antidote to communism, is people need to be happy within themselves and stop trying to fuck around with society.
Wait, what?
That's the antidote to communism. People need to be happy within themselves and stop fucking around in society.
Oh man, but don't you see that was the prescription that they gave these people, which led to this type of communist movement that they have today?
If people were focusing on themselves,
That's what
and
created
focused on being happy,
leftism as we know it.
I disagree entirely. That's the antidote to leftism.
Is more leftism.
It's not leftism to care about yourself and be happy within yourself. The left tries to take that away from people all the time.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because I see the opposite. It seems like it's like
how do you mean?
Anti-body shaming, pro, like the self-acceptance movement. I'm happy within myself.
That's not what that's about, though. That's not what that's about. They're trying to queer. They're trying to queer looks. They're trying to that's part of the queer Marxist movement, where they need to take everything that's considered normal and like twist it so that they look crazy and ugly and like all this stuff.
Normal according to
and
who?
They get crazy tattoos and like all these things. Like
Normal
that's all
according to the culture.
according to society. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the fat positive thing is about queer Marxism. It's about queering how we look to destabilize the norms of society. But if they actually love themselves, which they don't, they hate themselves. If they actually love themselves, they wouldn't be involved in this in the first place.
Actually love them.
Yes, they don't like the fat positive people don't love themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They don't. You can visibly tell they don't love themselves. You think they do?
No.
Well, then that's exactly the point. I'm not talking about like fake, like, we're beautiful and all this stuff, like because and like posing on fucking Instagram. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about genuine, like, self-love, self-respect, seeing yourself as worthy, not worrying about what other people say or what other people do or how other people feel about it. Like the fat positive stuff is all fake. That's not real self-love and self-acceptance. I'm talking about actual self-love. You don't think that's the antidote to the left? Like, if you love yourself, then why do you have a desire to change other people or change society?
Because I love other people.
So you want them to change because you love them?
Yeah.
Can you explain?
Like if I see everybody self-destructing and I see systems set up that are hurtful to the people that I love, I want to change that.
But that's not really what I'm saying though. Like what you're like, if you got people to love themselves, they wouldn't want to change society to revolve around, fulfilling whatever longing they have. And that's what's going on. They don't love themselves. They don't see themselves as worthy. They see scarcity all around them.
Where does self-love come from? This thing that you're calling loving yourself. How do you cultivate that?
Any number of ways, I suppose, but you release anger, you release resentment, you talk about yourself in positive ways, you see yourself in positive ways.
So it's sort of like just mental.
Yeah, it's a mental exercise. You see yourself as being worthy. I deserve what I want in the world.
Do you?
I mean, I think everyone deserves what they want.
Why?
Why not? Why not?
Where does deserving come from?
By virtue of being born.
Ah,
You disagree?
yeah.
What do you think? Where do you think deserving comes from?
The old saying is, the love you take is equal to the love you make.
Okay. What does that mean to you?
If you want to love yourself, be good to others. Cultivate lovable qualities. And then when you act right and you be right and you do right, and then you look at yourself and you go, right on.
But
This
is being good
rules.
to others
I like
about
being this person.
Is being good to others about cultivating lovable qualities? Like those to me seem two separate things. You can be good to others and not have lovable qualities. You can also have lovable qualities and not be good to others.
You lost me.
You could okay, so let's take Nick for example. Like you could argue, and I'm not certain I'm making this point. I'm just giving an example, but I think you might make this point. Like you could argue that Nick has lovable qualities, but he is not good to others. You have basically argued that to me, right? Am I wrong? Am I mischaracterizing?
Maybe a little bit reductive, but I'm following.
Okay. So, I mean, like, is it so that, I mean, that means they're two separate concepts, right? They're not like, you don't, like, if you do one, you don't necessarily.
What are we talking about? What do you mean? I mean, you brought up Nick. That's weird. I mean, I don't know Nick.
Well,
Nick, if you want to like address like what
you
Nick
asked
is doing.
how
Nick is
people,
offering something to a bunch of people who want it.
but
So
you
he's
asked,
offering
goods. Hang on, we're talking about self-love. You asked how do people develop self-love, and I said they develop it by changing the way they look at themselves and how they think about themselves and how they feel about themselves. And you said that they develop it by being good to others and developing lovable qualities. That's what I'm disputing. I don't think that's how you develop self-love. Because first of all, I think those are two separate concepts. But I also don't know that, I mean, I think that you can, like, doing good to others is a way that you can see yourself as worthy of receiving love, because if we do something for others, like law of reciprocity, we're like going to get something back in theory. But is that necessarily true? I mean, I don't think you necessarily have to do that, but maybe it's if it helps you to play the mental game to see yourself as worthy if you do good things for others, then fine.
Look, we're kind of in a spot here. I should address that I'm not for self-love. I'm against it.
Why?
Because I'm for self-forgetfulness. I'm for,
what does that mean?
Meaning that this concept of self that you love is like that's a weird ego trap.
Okay. Okay.
That people do.
Well, okay, fine. So, okay, I understand where you're going with that, but like, I'm talking about practically living in the real world. And I think that if more people did, I think a lot of people hate themselves.
I value self-respect over self-adoration or self-love or self-acceptance.
What is the difference? What is the difference?
Well, again, so respect is, it's an impression that you have on yourself of yourself in the way you behave. I think it's best when it's based on actual behavior. If I behave in ways that I uphold, according to the code that I honor, if I act in honorable ways, then I will honor myself and I will have a sense of self that's reflective of my actions, the way I use my energy in the world. And that'll be reflected by interactions with others, or even just a sense of inner integrity and conscience and things like these come into play. But I think when we get into areas of like doing mental exercises to wash away insecurities and things like that, it's like it's better to build something than to just get like the way to it's better to outweigh self-doubt with positive action rather than just to eliminate doubt. Like the way to remove self-doubt is to go and do things that build confidence. Like build confidence. Don't eliminate doubt. Build confidence.
But that to me also, it just seems like a head game, right? Like if you need to go out to do things so that you feel accomplished, you feel good about yourself, you feel like, okay, fine. Like I'm not saying that that's necessarily a bad thing if that's what you need to do to feel worthy. But I mean, okay, let me ask this. Like, do you believe that there is some sort of like higher being? Like God, source, one true energy, whatever.
Does it matter? I don't know.
Yes, it does.
Oh, okay.
For the point, I mean, maybe it doesn't to you, but like for the point I'm making.
You're asking me if I believe that?
Yeah.
I mean, without getting into a discussion about what that means to me, yeah, sure.
Okay. So there is some sort of like higher being. Do you believe that God, source, whatever, has unconditional love for all of us? That we don't need to do anything to experience love. We just need to be.
No.
Why? What do we need to do to experience love from God?
I think the idea of experiencing love from God is mostly hallucination.
Okay, so do you believe that love at the core is all that we are? We are love, like at our core being?
Sort of. Fish, maybe, no.
Sort of ish, maybe no.
Yeah.
Can we take the sort of?
Okay.
Okay. So if it is true that, be love, that is all that you are, and if it's true that there is this source that we all come from, which is unconditional love. It's love. It's made of love, because if we're made of love, then the source that we come from is made of love. Then what do we have to do to be worthy of love? Because we already have access to unconditional love. So why do we have to do anything to be worthy?
You've invoked another category here. So you're talking about unconditional, transcendental states.
Well, that's what it is. Yes.
But then we're talking about the self, which is literally separated from all that.
I think I'm talking about something that transcends the self and the ego.
But you're saying the words love yourself.
No, I'm not. I haven't said that yet. No, I have not said that yet in this example. No, I haven't.
That's what this conversation is. See, that's what I mean. We've switched to a different category.
We haven't switched to a different category because if we come from a source that at its core is love, and
then we leave the source into form and separation and identification with a body and a life and all that stuff, and then we're somewhere else.
But wouldn't you argue that separation is an illusion? We think we're separated from things, but we're really not.
And what I'm saying is that the self is an illusion too. So loving the self is a
that's
waste
not
of time.
but you just changed the question. Are we even if we believe we are separate from each other, are we really separate from each other?
Not really.
Okay, so we are not separate.
We're also
from each
not
other.
separate from
Separation
the
is an
universe.
illusion.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Well, this is
the universe is one thing.
But this is exactly what I'm saying too. We are not separated from the universe. We are not separated from each other. We are not separated from source. Source is love. Therefore, we are love. Therefore, we don't need to do anything to be worthy of love. We already have access to it. We're not separated from it. And regardless of whether
this is your retardation.
No
disrespect. I'll do respect.
You know I'm right.
No
you
offense.
know I'm right. You know you are so full of
don't
shit.
do that.
You
That's
are
rude.
so
That's
full
rude.
of shit.
That's rude.
You've
Hey,
called
don't
me
be rude.
a retard. You've called me a retard like 15
But I
times.
said all
on
due
this
respect.
live
I said
stream.
no offense. It's not rude. I said I said no offense, retard.
No offense. You're full of shit. You know.
Look, you're saying we're all one thing, And then when we talk about the self is a separation from the one thing. And you're saying in the one thing that we all are, that's a
No,
thing that's
separation
all
is an illusion. Separation is an illusion. It's not fucking real.
Hold it. Exactly. Yeah. So I propose that self-forgetfulness is the way back into a connection with that one thing. And you're saying, no, self-love is good. And I'm saying love isn't about the self. I'm saying when you forget the self, then you're back in that place where there's unconditional abiding affection for the one thing that exists. But in the self, the experience of self is an experience of separation from that.
But what I'm saying is that like it doesn't
So
matter what you
loving the
experience.
self, and you're saying that the self is an illusion, so that you're
doesn't
loving an
matter.
illusion in your mind.
But no, what I'm saying is it's not an illusion though. The illusion is separation. That's
The
the
self
illusion.
is a separation.
No, it's not. I disagree. It's an illusion of. It's all an illusion. It's not real.
The self is an illusion.
Right. So it's not true separation.
When I say it, you
So it's
disagree, and
not
when I say it
true
again, you say
separation.
right.
The self is an illusion, therefore there is no separation. Therefore, we always have access to unconditional love. Therefore, we don't need to do anything to be worthy of it. We don't need to do acts. We don't need to do like go out and do things in the world. It's all we have access to it right now.
Then we don't have to have a self.
Well, in theory, no, but like that's the experience that we've chosen, but that doesn't mean that separation from any of this is real. It's just an illusion.
Carlin, how can you say to me that separation is an illusion and therefore the self is an illusion, but self-love is important?
Because you can see yourself as a being that is connected to everything. You can see yourself as you can see yourself as someone that does have access to unconditional love, because we can learn to see through the illusion. Now, can everyone see through the illusion? No, that's why you go to self-help things and they teach you how to see through the illusion. That's like that is the purpose of all of those. That's the purpose of like meditation workshops. That's the purpose of like going to shamans. That's the purpose, to help you see through the illusion. And you might not
And
have
that's
any
what
idea
I
what you're
refer
getting
to
into.
as self-forgetfulness.
Well, I disagree that it's forgetfulness though. It's the opposite of forgetfulness. It's remembering.
The illusion is the thing that you want to get past, right?
Yes.
And the self is part of the illusion, right?
Sure.
So forgetting the illusion and seeing the reality,
Mm-hmm.
forgetting the self and seeing the connection. I'm saying that, and then you say, no, I disagree.
I
You
think
the self.
okay, so
but
I think
you
we're
also
using
say that the self is part of an illusion.
So I think we're using different words to describe the same thing. You're calling it forgetting. I'm calling it remembering. But it leads to
Remembering
the
what?
same place. Remembering remembering what we really are. Remembering the
that you're
things
not
that
this
were
thing
wiped.
that you call the self.
Yes. Yes. Remembering what we really are.
Yeah.
So we're saying basically the same thing. We're just using a different word for it. Can we agree that we're on the same concept? I'm fine with changing my words.
Like,
If you
I
want to
don't
call
want
it,
to call it that.
if you want to call it forgetting, fine. I'll call it forgetting for the sake
Yeah.
of like us
So
coming to
you
the
want to
agreement that we're
remember
talking
who
about the same thing.
you really are.
Well, remember what I really am, not
Okay.
who, what. Those are two different things.
Are you the self?
No.
Then why does the
But
self deserve love?
but I am like a being made of eternal love that is living a human experience. Like that like I'm like the body is like a real thing, right? We can't, well, unless we do a lot of drugs, we can't leave our body. Right? So that's something that you have to contend with. But that does not mean you are separated from unconditional love. What?
think you are wanting to have a conversation in terms that you're failing to honor the categories. You're just sort of like you're passing things around,
How?
and you're
Then
telling me
how?
things maybe you've heard, or it's like I don't know. But
No. Well, the
I keep
point
saying
is,
it to you, and then you say
well,
no. It's like, well, why do I?
The
gotta
point
tell you?
is that, like, going back to the movie, I think that the antidote to people getting sucked into like a leftist cult is to become aware of this stuff, is to actually do stuff like this, is to become aware that you already have access to everything you want. You don't need a communist like world to give it to you. You don't need any of this stuff. Like, you're worthy of whatever you want. And so that ultimately is my point, is that this is the antidote to the leftist cult.
I mean, I'll allow you to have that perspective.
Oh,
I just totally
thank
disagree.
you for allowing me to have the perspective, sir. Thank you.
You may continue on in your, your hypothesis that is the solution.
Well, what do you think the solution is?
Just like find the bad guys who are creating that cult, and then like probably like hang them or something.
Okay. What if there are too many of them to do that?
Just
what
like
if they outnumber you drastically?
Get more people on your team.
What if they outnumber you drastically and you can never catch up?
Well, then you lose.
Like, what if there aren't enough trees to hang them on? Like, I mean, it's like, you really think that this is like, you really think that just like
what if
hanging everyone you don't like? You think that hanging everyone you don't like? You think that hanging everyone you don't like is a better solution? What if your gun turns
into bubbles and you can't shoot it?
Hang on. You think that hanging everyone you don't like is a better solution than teaching people to love themselves?
Is that what I said?
Seriously?
Is that what I
Yes.
said?
Yes.
Hang everybody I don't like?
Yes.
If I hung everybody I don't like, there'd be like 15 people left on the planet.
Okay, well, fine, but like, I'm talking about as a solution to the leftist cult, not.
Yeah, I said find the people who are creating that cult, and fortunately, there's not that many of them.
There
and then
are
you just,
a ton of them.
break
What are you
out the
talking
guillotine.
about? That's not true at all. There are a lot of these people.
How many? What's the number?
Millions.
There's millions of people creating the cult?
Yes.
No, there's not.
It's an entirely decentralized movement. Yes, it is.
No, it isn't.
Yes,
the
it
movement's
is.
decentralized. Who creates the movement?
Okay, I want to ask my chat, how many people do you think are creating the leftist cult? Like, he's not going to listen to me, so like, why don't you guys tell him? Like, maybe if he hears it from other people. Like,
you're telling me the people that are in the cult.
No, I'm telling you the people that are running it. It's an entirely decentralized movement.
That's not true.
It is true. It's
Nope.
It is an.
You would just have failed to identify the centers.
Fuck you. No, I have not.
Yeah,
It is an
you have.
entirely decentralized movement, bro.
No, it isn't.
Yeah. How do you figure?
Oh boy. I mean, when I show it to you, you go, nah. So it's like, what are we doing here?
Are you talking about the Jews? Is that where we're going with this? I'm talking about. We're not talking. We're not talking about the same thing. I am talking about the left. Okay. When I say leftist cult, I mean the radical revolutionary far left. And I know you think that's descended from the Jews. Okay, fine, I can accept that. But can we go where I'm at instead of bringing it to another place that I'm not talking about?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
About the cult.
You're talking about here, and I can accept that I might be talking about here. Okay.
Look, Carlin, you're talking about the
octopus
with 1,000 tentacles.
Yes, I'm
and you're like,
talking
the
about
tentacles are all decentralized. I'm like, no, they're all actually connected.
Stop. If I'm talking about here and you're talking about the octopus up here, you can hang everyone in the octopus up here, and that's still not going to get rid of everyone that's here, because they are not, like, it's decentralized from them. And you can argue that the thing down here spawned from the fucking octopus. Fine. But that doesn't actually make a difference, because if you get rid of the octopus, this still exists. It's not just going to go away if the octopus goes away. And so this is the problem that I'm contending with right now. I'm not contending with this problem right now. This is a more difficult problem to solve than this.
How does the octopus keep operating after you've like blown its brains out?
Because they're not operating in conjunction with each other. You can argue,
but they all
that
depend on
you can
the thing for their life.
You can argue that the octopus and everything that they've done for millennium created this, but that doesn't mean they're working together. They're separate from each other.
That's your perspective.
It is a completely factual thing that this operates separately from this. If this goes away, this still exists. This is now something that's going to grow out of control.
You're just, I mean,
I'm not making stuff up. We've got
that's
this
what
like
that's what you
all
think.
fucking documented. Yes, I do think that. Yeah.
You think that the body of the beast will keep operating after you chop its head off.
Yes, at 100%. The
Even
body
after
of the
it
beast,
can't eat
because
and it can't see,
they
it will
but they can
still
because the
operate the
fact
same.
is yes, because they can still eat and they can still see and they can still communicate and they
Carlin,
didn't even know they were connected. Yes.
Dude, like you're telling me, like if you went to the people who are funding these programs in the university and removed them from being able to do that, the universities would keep doing it.
Yes.
Like, no, they wouldn't.
Yes, they would.
Not if it's outlawed.
You're never going to get to a place of outlawing this. This
is what I'm talking about.
That's not fucking reasonable.
Well, neither is the idea that we're just going to go to their houses and grab them and hang them from trees. I'm just saying that's the solution. Okay? And you're telling me, no, we're going to like tell them how to love themselves.
Yes, that is actually a more reasonable solution than we are going to, by law, outlaw all universities and their billion and billion and $billion endowments. If we defunded
And those $1 billion
university
endowments
right now,
come from
still
who?
Exists. It comes from, it doesn't matter who they come from because they already have it.
Yeah,
It doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't fucking matter.
That's really, really important.
It doesn't matter where it came from. They have it now. And it doesn't even matter. You could actually eliminate the universities and it would still be fucking perpetuated through the K through 12 public schools. So that doesn't even matter anymore
And
either.
why would that happen? Is it because there's a board of education that has people in it who are doing these things?
and we can
so
reverse
there's
engineer
the
how all this-
people. It's always at the top.
But that's not going to change
Nothing
anything
doesn't
because they
work
already.
that way.
Oh my god, it doesn't matter. It is decentralized. You can't just when you cut off the
It's
head
like
of the
Bitcoin. It's just like everybody's equal in this whole thing, and it doesn't require any type of.
No, they don't communicate like that. It is a decentralized movement. There are tons of these fucking things all over the country where they might communicate here and there if they can help each other out, but they operate independently from each other. They raise their own money, they have their own dues, they do everything independently. They're not connected to one single financier. That's just reality. They're just not. And so if you remove the head of the snake, well, congratulations, you got one head. There are thousands more fucking heads.
I understand that that's still your perspective. And
it's not just my
I
perspective.
disagree.
We've been documenting this shit for fucking years. Like, this is not just my perspective.
Yeah,
We've
but for
seen
years
it.
you didn't even know the part that I've been introducing you to.
Yeah, fine.
It was somehow hidden from your view with all of this studying.
Well, but that actually reinforces the point I'm making because you introduced me to the part up here. I'm talking about the part here, which is disconnected.
And you're still in the process of grasping how it's connected.
No, I'm not. You're grasping how it's not connected. You haven't grasped that yet. That you can remove the part up here, and this is still going to
I
exist.
knew about it, and you didn't. And I'm telling you it's
That
connected.
doesn't
And you're
matter.
saying, okay, well, now I see that it exists, but I don't see the connection.
Matter. It does. I'm not saying I didn't say I don't see the connection. I conceded to you this.
The connection is a
created
connection
this.
of dependency.
It's not a connection of
other one.
dependency. I
No.
disagree. I disagree.
know.
Like, you have not proven that it is dependent. That is something you have not proven to me at all. Have you given me
I'm
cause
not in
to
a
believe that
hurry.
they
It
created
takes time to
Fine.
figure it out.
Okay,
You're
well,
still on your
fine.
way.
What evidence do you have that it's connected?
I mean, are we gonna finish this video, or are we gonna switch to a different topic where I'm gonna spell all this out for you?
Spell all it out.
Oh boy. Okay, well, all of these things that you're talking about, they are interdependent with a a system of agencies, including schools, banks,
Yep.
government, media, Hollywood, television, all that, the news. So there are levers of power that are switched on to fund and support and promote and run cover for and to limit enemies from all of those decentralized agencies you're talking about. All of those little things you're talking about are literally shielded and funded and held up by.
Nope.
Okay.
No, I disagree. I disagree emphatically because I know how they're funded, and they're not funded in the way that you're describing.
Okay.
Can you acknowledge that there might be a possibility that I know something about this? Like, and I'm not saying you're 100% wrong. In fact, I feel like I've accepted a lot of what you've said to me over the past several months, and that's fine. But can you, like, is there any reality in your mind in which I might know what I'm talking about in terms of how these groups are funded and how they operate within this particular thing?
Well, I think it would
Is
be
that
fair for me to
possible?
say, instead of you saying that it's possible for a thing to happen, because we're in the realm of possible versus not possible, what if I ask you then, what's your evidence?
I have a ton of evidence. We've been documenting it in this wiki thing that we're doing. We've been documenting it on for literally years. This is what we've been doing. We've been cataloging.
Okay, I have the evidence is different than
groups,
saying
and
this
and
is
I
the
know
evidence.
I
What's
know
the
how
evidence?
these groups are. I know how these
We
groups are
stopped
funded
watching the video.
because
We're
I have
staying
their
here.
documents. Because I
So
have
what
their
is it?
documents.
What's the evidence?
You want me to? I'm not. Okay. I'll.
I mean, you pressed me to it, and I did my best. I give you the TLDR. TLDR.
Can it be good enough for right now for me to say that the vast majority of these groups are self-funded through dues, through donations that they solicit, through mutual aid networks that they've created? It's an entirely closed ecosystem. There are no big funders that come in because they literally say in the charter of these groups that they're not going to accept that because it disrupts the purity of their fucking movement. They're funded by dues, donations, events that they hold, and book sales, publishing. That's how they're funded. And that has nothing to do with what you're talking about. It is completely separate. It is an insular ecosystem.
Where did those people who formed those little things get their education?
In any number of places. You're going to say the colleges, and in some cases that's true, not necessarily all of them. Because we're talking about cells. We're talking about like cells all over the country.
They received their indoctrination in the university?
Some of them, not all of them, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Who sits at the board?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. No, it doesn't matter because the indoctrination has already happened. If we are talking about a preemptive strike and saying, okay, we don't want this to happen, so we're going to cut off the head of the fucking snake and we're going to get rid of the university system and we're going to do that, fine. That prevents any future things from being made. It does not take away what has already been done.
At the places where they hold their events that allows them to have this leftist revolutionary meetup.
Mm-hmm.
Who owns that place?
Usually they do. They do them in like revolutionary bookstores that they own.
A revolutionary bookstore?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Who owns that printing press?
There are many different publishers and not all of them are Haymarket Books.
Which ones are they?
Veriso Books, Pluto Press, P&M Press. There's a whole bunch of others that I can't name off the top of my head.
And who owns those?
They do. The collectivist.
They own printing presses?
Yes.
I don't believe you.
I
don't believe you've looked into that yet.
You don't need to own a fucking printing press today. Everything is all like anyone can self-publish anything. You don't need to own a printing press. There's no need for you to own a fucking like printing press anymore.
So anybody can print anything they want.
Yes.
Is that true?
Yes.
Okay. And who set it up that way?
Oh my God. Are you seriously? So now you're saying we're just going to get rid of publishing on demand entirely, and that's going to solve the problem. Well, you know what they're going to do then? They're going to do what they started doing in the fucking 90s and creating handmade publications called zines, where they're drawing everything on paper with a fucking pencil.
Mm-hmm. And that's the problem, right? Is there's too many people drawing on paper with pencils.
Well, that's part of how the most extreme end of the far left got created. And so, yeah, that's actually a very big problem. The things that were hand drawn on paper in the 90s and in the 2000s,
mm-hmm.
that has actually created a metric fuck ton of problem.
Mm.
So they need any fucking printing press to do that. And we've got a whole collection of these in my Discord. And we know how it links back to what they're teaching now.
I think that you're going to have a hard time tracing all of these groups back.
We're already doing it. We're already doing it.
And where do they come from? Okay, then this is what I mean. Like, who runs that printing press? Who owns that?
There's
that
not
place?
A printing press, is what I'm saying. Like, I understand what you're getting at, but that's not how this works. Maybe it was how it worked in the 60s. It's not how it works now. I can accept that if you do the things that you're saying, you would maybe prevent future activists from being made, but you can't unring the bell just by hanging some people that you don't like from trees and eliminating the university.
But that's the solution, though. All you have to do is stop the creation of this thing.
But that's not going to actually stop it now because it's reached too much of a critical mass.
That's what you think, though. But
yes, it is what I think. 100%.
It's not how it works.
I can look at the college protests and know that is exactly how it works.
Okay. Well,
and that's basically a couple of groups organizing that.
Okay.
How
Look,
am I wrong?
I'm not going to persuade you. I mean, in the same way, I'm not going to persuade you. Here's the problem: you're not going to persuade those people either out of their indoctrination.
I think
I can't even persuade you.
I have persuaded people out of their indoctrination.
Like a handful?
I literally have. Yes,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I've still done it.
Okay.
So you can't tell me it's impossible because I've done it. Now am I going to persuade everyone? No.
No.
But if there's some sort of like reverse engineering of how do we deprogram people from the leftist cult?
Mm-hmm.
Then maybe we can do more. I don't know. Maybe not. Probably not. I've said long ago, I think we're completely fucked. I think like 15, 20 years, we are completely fucked. But that doesn't mean that it can't be done.
Okay. Well, I'm not trying to stop you from trying what you want to try.
Well, I know that. I mean, you couldn't stop me. You couldn't stop me even if you wanted to. I am not your property, as it turns out.
I mean, no, it hasn't been brought up. I'm just saying, like, you're acting as though I'm.
No, what I'm saying.
I don't get, what are we doing? What are we doing?
What I'm saying is that I understand what you're saying. I wish you would consider that I kind of know something about this, and what I'm talking about is a separate thing that can run distinctly from what you're saying. And that doesn't diminish the value of what you're saying, and it doesn't diminish the reality of what you're saying. But I think you should consider that they are two separate fucking things. And that just because you get rid of this one doesn't mean this problem is solved anymore. Maybe back in the 60s, maybe that would have been true, but it's not true anymore.
Okay. I mean, like, then show me what you mean. You know what I mean? Like, but just trust me, bro, is what I'm hearing from you. Trust me, bro. You're
okay.
wrong.
Well,
right.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Maybe we can do that another night. Is that fair?
Fine.
Fine.
Jeez.
Jesus Christ.
Give me a freaking break. But if I could send it back your way too, it's like you seem to be so absolutely convinced that there's no connection of dependency between these groups and the origins of the groups and these things I'm saying, these You're saying the river doesn't flow from anywhere. It's just these are like spontaneously like self-generating rivers everywhere. And I'm
I
going,
don't.
no, they're all coming from
I
there's a fucking
don't.
glacier that's melting and all these rivers are running off of it. And you're
I
like,
don't.
no, there's too many rivers. And if you stop the melting of the glacier, the rivers are still going to flow. And I'm like,
Well, no, what we disagree on is to the degree of this. I am not saying there is no connection between the two. I'm not saying that if you got rid of all the universities today, that wouldn't present problems for them. I'm not saying it would have no impact. What I'm saying is that it can continue to operate independently. And maybe would it be a setback? Sure, it would be a setback. Yeah. Like the universities are
thank
one
you.
of their key
They're saying hot
but
spring. Yeah. So you think that the rivers are all coming from hot springs that bubble up from the ground. They're all just springs, well springs that make all these rivers.
No, I didn't say that. I'm acknowledging that if you
Yes,
got rid
they're
of all
self-funding. That's the analogy. That's what you're saying. They're self-funding,
Yes.
decentralized.
Yes, but I'm not okay, but I'm also acknowledging that they would be a setback if like all the universities went away, if all the Jewish billionaires that are funding the universities went away, that would absolutely be a setback for them. But would it be an insurmountable setback? No, because there are too many people that have already been created. Again, if we're talking about like in the 60s, it would be a completely different thing. We're not talking about the 60s. 60s were a long ass time ago. They've created more people. They've created millions and millions and millions and millions and millions. They have captured an entire generation. So would it be a setback? Sure, but the system can continue to operate independently.
As long as you allow it to. That's where I come from. It's like you seemed like I don't know why you believe that like law and force just isn't an option.
Because I don't think it's realistic. Just like I don't think getting rid of all the universities is it an option in a fantasy land? Sure. Can we just create like a monarchy with the right king involved and the right king that's going to make all the right decisions, and the king is just going to come in and wipe out the universities and wipe out the K through 12 schools, and you're going to put like all these fucking royal guards in place that are going to enforce the law of the land, and all the toxic people are going to be excommunicated, and everything's going to be roses, and we've got these people that like, yeah, it could in theory that happen. I mean, I guess maybe, but is it going to happen? No.
Yeah, okay, but I mean, same to you. You just told me that there's millions of people that have all been indoctrinated into this leftist cult.
Yes.
Okay, maybe in fantasy land, there's a way to amplify your signal so strong that we deprogram all of those people and teach them to love themselves. Is that going to happen? No. If I was a dick,
but I've already conceded that. I've
all
never
right,
said
so then
that.
what's the problem with my idea? It's just as fucking valid as yours then.
I've never said it was. I said that is the antidote to it. If that could happen, that would be an antidote to it. That is the opposite of what leftism
and then you
is.
attack it. Mine is also an antidote. If you go to these places where all of the, the headwaters where the rivers come from, build a dam.
I think my solution is actually more reasonable than yours is in terms of something that maybe could we get everyone? No, of course you can't. But could you get enough? Maybe. I don't know. I mean, would it all come from me? No, absolutely not. I would be a horrible person to do this. But
and those people who created it and are funding it and are teaching it and are continuing to indoctrinate, we allow them to keep operating. Is in your scenario?
I mean, I don't know how to stop them.
Except for what I just said. And you said, but that's not practical. It's like, all right, well then.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, fine. Would your solution work? I'm not saying it wouldn't. I'm saying I don't think it's realistic.
To think that we can enact laws and outlaw crimes.
How are you going to do that when you don't control the mechanisms to enact laws?
Yeah, that's the problem. You just go get that.
How do you do that?
I mean, your guess is as good as mine, but that's what has to be done. We got to figure that out.
That's a fucking point.
Yeah, but that's like a practical thing in the world. It's not like a spiritual inner transformation movement to reach 1 million people. It's just like to me, it just seems more attainable to me.
But
it seems more attainable than
hang
yours.
on,
In my opinion.
provably based on the documentary that we're watching and arguing about, provably this has already happened.
Yeah,
this has literally they're literally describing this already happening, where these mass transformation movements come up and reach millions of people. Like, this has already happened. So can it happen again? I don't know. Maybe if the right maybe if the right person came along, that maybe was like a miracle and inspired an entire country. Has that happened before?
Are you referring to something I'm not thinking of?
Yes.
What's that?
I mean, Hitler had a lot of people coming to see him, didn't he? Has stuff like this happened
Hitler
before?
did the thing that I'm saying.
Well, but what I'm saying is that it was a mass movement.
Wait a minute, did I just win? I just won. I just won.
No,
Hitler
you
did the
didn't.
thing that
No, you
I'm
didn't,
saying.
because
He did the thing I'm saying.
You are changing what the topic is. What I'm talking about is a mass movement that inspires millions of people. Has that happened before? Yes. Are we explicitly
Inspires
watching
millions
something?
of people. But first he got elected.
Now?
First he got elected.
And how did he get elected? Because he came along and he inspired a lot of people, and they elected him.
And he also got shot and imprisoned, and he fought a political campaign, and he beat the people that needed to be beat. And then he went and burned the books, and then he outlawed a bunch of things.
So when Barack Obama inspired millions of people, he got fucking elected. That's how you get elected to things, is you inspire millions of people. You're telling me, like, this happens all the time. Donald Trump inspired millions of people, didn't inspire them to do the right things. He inspired them to go to Trump rallies, not actually do anything fucking productive. But fine, he still inspired millions of people. You're telling me this can't happen? Bernie Sanders inspired millions of people.
But he didn't teach them to love themselves. He
But
organized
we're
a
literally
fucking
watching a
army.
documentary about like self-love movements that are inspiring millions of people. Oprah has inspired millions of people to like look into stuff like this. Joe Dispenza has inspired millions of people to do meditation. Like, there are people that do this.
Carlin, Oprah and Joe Dispenza are part of this thing. They're the people who have to be stopped.
Disagree, bro. No.
Yes.
Okay, we could argue, but I can accept the Oprah one. Fine. Joe Dispenza is like the fucking antidote to this.
Oh,
Joe
boy.
Dispenza is not like, bro.
Joe
Okay,
Dispenza is a con man.
I disagree. Well,
Okay.
he's an asshole, but I don't think he's a con man.
Okay. I mean,
He's not a good person, but I don't think he's a con man.
no, he's a bad person and a con man.
Well, is he a con man if what he teaches works?
Well, the con is that he says what he teaches works.
But it does.
That's the con.
It does, though.
Maybe in your mind.
In my mind, in the mind of people that I know that have had success with him.
Mm-hmm.
Sin has done his meditations. Sin can attest to, like,
great.
His meditations work. He's an asshole.
Hey,
Fine.
I got some snake oil you can rub on you, and I bet it'll work for a bunch of
Oh my God.
people. Hey, he put it on him, and the disease went away. It works.
He wouldn't have so many people going back over and over and over and over and over again if they weren't getting value out of it.
That's a big assumption.
No, it's not. What do you mean?
Dude,
do people usually
people get value out of
people,
Joel Osteen has the biggest church in the world, and he's a Jewish mega
so
pastor.
So people get value out of what he does. People don't like value.
Yeah.
Is just, like, money is just
People
a
are
value
getting
exchange.
value out of Oprah and out of this freaking brainwashing Esalen
So is he
Institute.
really a con man? People are going.
Yeah.
They're paying for him to do something. They're having a good time. They like it. They have no problem giving him thousands of dollars.
They like it, therefore it's not a con.
Yes, it's doing what they're paying him to do. It's not a con if he's achieving what you're paying him to achieve.
Okay.
It's a con
Amazing.
if you're giving people something that doesn't do what they say it's going to do. Like snake oil is
No,
not
that's
actually
not what
gonna
a
do
con
anything.
is. No,
What is a con for you?
Con man is short. Do you know what con means?
Well,
do you know why we call them a con man?
Please educate me.
You don't?
Tell me.
I'm assuming that it's a no. Con is short for confidence.
Okay.
A confidence man inspires confidence in the mark. He's someone who gains confidence with you.
That's not what I'm talking about.
Okay.
This is not about inspiring confidence. This is about I pay someone money to teach me these meditation techniques. I go to a workshop. I learn the meditation techniques.
I know. And a con man gets
That's
you to
not,
do that.
But that's not about confidence in anything. That's about something
No,
I paid money to
have
learn
trusted
this,
it,
and
his
then I was
his
taught
confidence in his technique inspires you to buy it and like it.
No,
He
that's not what
presents
that's
it
not
with
actually
a type
what
of
inspired me to buy it at
confidence
all.
in the reality of it.
That's not what inspired confidence at all.
Well, what is it?
What inspired confidence was doing it and achieving a result from it that I found to be
No.
acceptable for the amount of money that I
did
paid.
it is because you read his book or you saw his website or you
Mm-hmm.
heard somebody who told you that they had a good time or whatever like that. So you got brought into his
Yes. And I paid to go to his retreat because, well, several of his retreats, but I paid to go to them. For the first one, it was just because a friend of mine was going and she was like, come have a weekend with me. And I was like, fine. So I wasn't really expecting anything. And then I learned the goddamn meditation techniques and I practiced the meditation techniques and I didn't even like him and they fucking worked. They achieved what I wanted to achieve. Is it possible that what he is teaching actually does work?
Yes.
So then that's the fucking point. Then it's not a con. I'm sorry. It's not if it actually does what people need it to do, it is not a con.
Okay, fine. Dude, I mean, you're wrong, but you're not interested in understanding what I'm saying.
I am understanding what you're saying.
No, you are.
I'm disagreeing with what you're saying.
Yeah.
But the point is, oh my God.
Okay. Well, Carlin, look. Joe Dispenza is a con man. His books are bullshit.
Fine,
He makes
fine.
a bunch of
You
claims that are
can-
untrue. His whole thing is
well-
a sham, and he teaches a good meditation
You
thing
can,
that you
yes,
like.
and that's the point
So
of it.
fucking
He
what?
teaches a good meditation, but that is the point. Is he has
Dude.
inspired people through whatever, and so what? You know
Right,
what?
so he
Listen,
fucking
it didn't-
tricked people into doing something that's good for themselves. Therefore, it
Yes.
wasn't a trick.
So what? What does it matter if they did something good for themselves that made their life measurably better? Then it doesn't matter how it got there. They still did something good for themselves that made their life measurably better. That's the point. And how you feel about it doesn't really matter. How I feel about it doesn't really matter. If they feel that their life was made measurably better, then it was.
That's not what makes somebody a con man or not, Carlin.
That's not what I'm talking about.
Okay, then
I've
you just
moved
shifted the
on from
goals to something
yes,
else.
Yes,
We
in
were
this case,
talking.
did
I
that
said he's a
shift
con
it.
man, and you said
I'm
no, he
trying to
isn't.
get back to
And
the
then we had an
original point.
argument, and now you're not talking about that anymore.
I'm trying to get back to the original point.
This is so annoying. Stick with a thing. Don't switch categories.
Oh my God. I've always been trying to get back to the original point.
What's the point? Is he a con man or not?
The point is that it is possible to inspire people to feel differently about themselves and to love themselves. And we can have a discussion about the ego another fucking day. But you can teach people to love themselves and to see themselves as worthy and see themselves as having the ability to do whatever they want to do. And that is the antidote to the leftist cult. That is my point.
So if everybody goes to Joe Dispenza and learns the meditation,
Not just that, but I'm saying that there are plenty of people in the world. Joe Dispenza is not the best teacher for everyone.
Okay.
Oprah is not the best. Oprah's not really a good teacher for anyone. Marianne Williamson isn't the best teacher for everyone, but she can teach some people. I'm saying, it is possible on a mass scale to teach people to see themselves differently. And the evidence of that is this fucking documentary. Because this documentary wouldn't exist if that hadn't happened. Yeah,
This
exactly.
documentary wouldn't exist if a bunch of Jewish psychoanalysts didn't figure out how to hijack people's minds on a mass psychosis way.
Oh, so you're telling me that minds can be hijacked to think different things. That's the fucking point. If they can do it, why can't it be done against them?
Right. So we'll just use the Jew magic back against the Jews.
Yes. Yeah, I actually think that's a really great plan. Use the Jew magic back against the Jews, because the Jew magic actually seems to be pretty powerful. Yes.
Got it.
Well, you can. Everyone has access to the Jew magic.
That's I don't like that plan.
Well, it's fine. You don't have to like the plan. But it worked once.
Look, there's different tools for destroying than there are for building. Okay, you can use a hammer to destroy, or you can use it to build, but only one way of using that tool builds. All right. So, but these are all destruction tools. These are tools used for destruction. And your theory is that, but we can destroy the destruction, and then we will have something good. It's like that's how
I
it
don't
sounds
think
to me.
teaching people to love themselves is destroying anything. If anything, it is building.
Right. And you're a fucking hippie retard. So like
Well,
that's why you think that.
Fine.
That's the point. You're a
Fine.
hippie retard and
Fine.
you think loving
I'm
yourself.
a hippie retard. Fine.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So you're bought into this whole thing.
Yes, I am bought into this whole thing.
Yeah. And so you're
If we could just get everyone to
you're
take
part
fucking
of the
mushrooms,
problem.
if we could just get everyone to take fucking mushrooms and ayahuasca and LSD, this whole fucking problem would be solved. Is it really that hard to believe that we mushrooms are like I can order mushrooms at the fucking mail now. Like they're so much easier now. Is it really impossible that we could get like a lot of people to do shrooms? Like honestly, like is that impossible? I don't think so. You know I'm right. It's okay.
I'm just letting you get it out.
All right, let's continue with the movie. That was a good hour-long argument.
Sweet.
1968, Rubin, as leader of the Yippies, had led the march on Chicago.
No, I'm never doing
Now he had
mushrooms again.
undergone S training.
I was willing to die, and I had a martyr complex in a sense. I think we all did, and I've given up that ideal of sacrifice. And I'm not as overwhelmingly moved by injustice as I was. And now we reincarnated ourselves from within.
Basically, the politics were lost and totally replaced by this lifestyle, and then the desire to become deeper and deeper into the self. By now, a grandiose sense of the self. And my a good friend and one of the original Yippie founders,
Can I
Jerry
show
Rubin,
boobs on YouTube? What the fuck?
definitely moved in that direction.
That was unexpected.
And I think he was beginning to buy into the notion that he could be happy and fully self-developed on his own. Socialism in one person. Although that, of course, is capitalism.
Oh my god.
That's the whole joke.
You might want to rewind that and see that clip
Yeah.
again.
Well, I think I
it's
think I do want to do that. Yeah.
Socialism.
Hang on.
Happy and fully self-developed on his own. Socialism in one person.
Yes. Was he alone in that trajectory?
Although that, of course, is capitalism.
Mm-hmm.
That's the whole joke.
I'll go clip that later.
I think it's funny.
And that's the whole joke.
I think it's
We don't
funny
need to
because
see the
people
boobs
spend
again.
so much of their life
Denied.
being
Boobs
bedeviled
again.
by their
Boobs
past.
again.
being
No
locked
more
into their
boobs.
past,
No.
and being limited by their past. And there's an enormous freedom from that. Letting people create themselves.
Est was only the most vivid and intense expression of an idea that was spreading rapidly.
Wait,
through
did they
all
just like
strata
have
of American
orgies?
society.
They did.
Hell yeah.
Books and television programs
Wow.
promoted the idea that one's first duty was to be oneself. And those monitoring this shift were astonished at the speed with which the idea was spreading.
They weren't good
In
moves, Reagan. You're okay.
1970, it was a small percentage of the total population, maybe 3 to 5%. By 1980, it had spread to the vast majority of the public, up to 80%.
You asked the question, how do you get self-actualized? You take this day and you say, when I shave every morning, I look in that mirror, I say to myself, I really say this, I say, nobody is going to ruin this day for you, Wayne Dyer. Nobody.
That this
Wayne Dyer,
preoccupation
we got
with
the
the
Gnostic
self
sex
and the
cult.
inner self
Yep.
traveled and spread throughout the society in the 1970s.
It helped me to stop living in the past and start building from today and using my experiences in a positive way to be a better person today and tomorrow.
But then the problem comes, well, how do you be self-expressive?
And it was at this point that American capitalism decided it was going to step in and help these new individuals to express themselves. And in the process,
You know, Wayne
make a lot
Dyer
of
and Joe
money.
Dispenza were buddies, right?
The first thing they were going to do was
Doesn't
to find a
mean
way
Joe
of getting
Dispenza's
inside
meditation
their
don't
head
work.
anything.
It
to
doesn't mean
discover
it's
what
Joe
these new
Dispenza's
beings wanted
Well-
in order to be themselves.
Wayne Dyer helped a lot of people. Joe Dispenza's helped a lot of people.
Look,
Like-
these guys have taken ancient concepts of
Yes, that's the
transcendental
point.
meditation and Taoism and stuff like that, and that's all based. But,
Yes.
So yeah, these con men grabbed that stuff.
Well, there have to be teachers in the world of these concepts. Like, how do you expect people to learn these concepts if no one's out there teaching these concepts?
I guess I mean, thank God for con men then.
Well, I mean, who's teaching these concepts that you wouldn't consider to be a con man? Like, are they all con men?
No, just the ones that like are bullshitting liars.
Well, how is it a bull? How if they're taking ancient wisdom and they're teaching ancient wisdom, and like the core of what they're teaching comes from something good that would benefit most people, then
As long as they're not attaching all sorts of bullshit with it that infects
That's
people's
what I'm
minds with bullshit,
saying.
that's fine.
That's what I'm saying, though.
I
Like,
bet if
they're
I looked at
teaching
Joe
concepts.
Dispenza, I wouldn't see him attaching a bunch of woo-woo bullshit onto it and making people think stuff that isn't true.
I don't actually think have you ever actually taken his classes or looked at his stuff?
I'm familiar with his grift.
Have you ever actually looked at how he teaches meditation?
Like that's one part of what he does.
But that's the most important. That's most of what he spends his time doing. That's what all his workshops are,
Right.
just teaching people how to meditate, and then giving them an opportunity to practice the meditation. Like, that's all it is. Like, when you go to his workshops, he drills you on like how meditation impacts the brain, and he gets into really minute details of like, here is how this works in terms of like, you know, different things. It's really not actually that woo woo. And he makes sure you understand how it works, and he makes sure you can explain it to other people how it works. And then you practice the meditation, and then you do another round of drills, and then you practice again. And it's just like, it goes back, and it's really like his workshops are not woo woo.
And then you end up with Dr. Carlin's worldview.
Well, fine, but I'm right, and so that worked out. That worked out pretty well. But Joe
Good thing.
Dispenza isn't where I learned that from.
Oh.
I learned that in a Peruvian jungle. Like, Joe Dispenza came way after the Peruvian jungle. That was just another meditation technique. But the point is, like, if you have, like, how are people supposed to learn ancient wisdom if there are not teachers out there teaching ancient wisdom? They can't just all be con men. And maybe, yeah, like, maybe is some of what Joe Dispenza does grifty? Oh yeah, fucking totally. That guy charges like $20 for like a meditation CD. He has like 8,000 of them. He's got all this merchandise that people can buy. He's got all this. Yeah, is that a grift? Yeah, sure, fine. I'll go with you on that. That's all grifty and gross and like whatever. He charges way too much fucking money for his workshops. Fine, but
He claims to have expertise that he doesn't have.
he does have it.
Oh.
What expertise is he
But he
claiming to have that he doesn't
does.
have? Well,
I'll follow up with you after. I'll follow up with you after.
Okay, fine. But that doesn't negate that the meditation techniques he teaches are fucking good. And and again, it's not even just about him. It's about like there have to be teachers out there teaching this stuff. Who is teaching this stuff that what you wouldn't consider to be a grifter or a con man? How do you expect people to learn ancient wisdom if there's no one out there teaching it? Not everyone can just jump in and do like a metric ton of LSD.
You got me chasing freaking rabbits. Okay, I say one thing.
I
and then
don't
you
though.
switch it
I
to,
don't. No,
oh,
no.
you don't though. Oh, okay.
No.
Never mind.
My
You do.
question.
Right,
You
you're
say
right,
this
don't.
every
I was wrong.
time. You say this every time I get you cornered on a question that I want to ask. I'm not quite asking the question you want.
Yeah.
To
I
ask.
say
I'm
something,
asking
and
the
then you
question I
followed up
wanna
with a different question about something else that I don't
No,
care
okay.
to talk about.
This is the one question that's important. How do you expect people to learn ancient wisdom?
I don't give a fuck about people learning ancient wisdom.
Okay, but Jesus fucking Christ! But you already admitted that it's a good thing for people to learn.
If they give a fuck, go ahead.
God, oh my fucking God.
Sure. But like, how do you expect everybody to learn this thing that you don't care about? Like, I don't expect them to.
Fine. You don't care. Fine. Okay.
Yeah, I don't.
This came not from Madison Avenue, but from one of the most powerful scientific research institutes in America. Stanford Research Institute in California worked for corporations and government. It had done much of the early work on computers and was also working for the Department of Defense on what would become the Star Wars project. In 1978, a group of economists and psychologists at SRI decided to find a way to read, measure, and fulfill the desires of these new unpredictable consumers.
The idea was to create a rigorous tool for measuring a whole range of desires, wishes, values that prior to that time had been kind of overlooked. They say in business, what gets measured gets done. We were basically telling manufacturers, if you're really going to satisfy not just the basic needs, but individuated wants, whims, and desires of more highly developed human beings, you're going to have to segment. You're going to have to individuate.
To do this, SRI turned for help to those who had begun the liberation of the self. In particular, one of the leaders of the human potential movement, a psychologist called Abraham Maslow. Through observing the work at places like Esalen, Maslow had invented a new system of psychological types. He called it the hierarchy of needs, and it described the different emotional stages that people went through as they liberated their feelings. At the top was self-actualization. This was the point at which individuals became completely self-directed and free of society. The team at SRI thought that Maslow's hierarchy might form the basis for a new way to categorize society, not by social class, but by different psychological desires and drives. To test this, they designed a huge questionnaire with hundreds of questions about how people saw themselves, their inner values. The questions were designed to see whether people fitted into Maslow's categories.
We were trying to find out what people really felt like. So we asked these really penetrating questions, and we hired a company that administers surveys, to do them. They said they've never seen anything like it. Usually you have to send out a postcard 6 weeks and then another postcard, and then you got to call the people up, to get the return rates up. We had an 86% return, and they only sent out one postcard. People loved filling out this questionnaire. We got several questionnaires back with a note attached saying, do you have any other questionnaires I could fill out? Because we were asking people to think about things that they had never thought about before, and they liked thinking about them.
Like what? Like what they felt inside?
Yeah, like what they felt inside. What motivated them? What was their life about? What was important to them? It was sort of like, wow.
The answers were then analyzed by computer. It revealed that there were underlying patterns in the way people felt about themselves, which fitted Maslow's categories. And at the top of the hierarchy were a large and growing group which cut across all social classes. The SRI team called them the inner directeds. These were people who felt they were not defined by their place in society, but by the choices they made themselves. But what SRI discovered was that these people could be defined by the different patterns of behavior through which they chose to express themselves. Self-expression was not infinite. It fell into identifiable types. And the SRI team invented a new term for it: lifestyles. They had managed to categorize the new individualism. They called their system Values and Lifestyles, VALS for short.
At the forefront of this change are three new VALS groups we call inner directed. These are people for whom personal satisfaction is more important than status or money. They tend to be self-expressive, complex, and individualistic. Rob is an I am me. I am me's are searching for new values, breaking away from traditions and inventing their own standards. Rob even invented his own name, Rob Noxious. Jody is an experiential. This is a group seeking inner growth through direct experience. Experientials aren't in one place much. This is the try anything once crowd, and all that activity takes goods and services. Their hobbies are hands-on, and their possessions are simple, but not always simply priced.
I'm a bookseller. I sell books. I'm a businessman. That doesn't necessarily mean that I believe in capitalism. It just happens to be what I'm doing now.
SRI created a simplified questionnaire with just 30 key questions. Anyone who answered them could be immediately fitted into a dozen or so of these new groups. It allowed businesses to identify which groups were buying their products, and from that, how the goods could be marketed, so they became powerful emblems of those groups' inner values and lifestyles. It was the beginning of lifestyle marketing.
So it allowed people not just to look at people as demographics, group of age and income and whatever, but to really understand the underlying motivations. I mean, most of marketing was looking at people's actions and trying to figure out what to do. But what we were doing is we were trying to look more into people's underlying values so that we could predict what is their lifestyle, what kind of house do they live in, what kind of car do they drive. So the corporations were then able to sell things to them by understanding them, by having labels, by knowing what these people look like, where they live, what their lifestyles are.
If a new product expressed a particular group's values, it would be bought by them. This is what made the values and lifestyle system so powerful: its ability to predict what new products self-actualizers would choose. And this power was about to be demonstrated dramatically. VALS would show it could predict not just the products they would buy, but the politicians they were going to choose to elect.
Ladies and gentlemen, the next president of the United States of America, Ronald Reagan!
In 1980, Ronald Reagan ran for president. He and his advisors were convinced they could win on a program of a new individualism. It would be an attack on 50 years of government interference in people's lives.
I wrote a speech about let the people make the basic decisions, get judges out of the way, get bureaucrats out of the way, get centralized government out of the way. I gave Reagan a choice of several titles for the speech, and the one he picked was let the people rule. Let the people regain rule, regain control over their own destiny away from a remote elite in Washington.
I would like to think that the kind of leadership that I would exercise in Washington is not the kind of leadership that I would pretend that I can solve all the problems I've been discussing here, but that together you and I can. I would like to take the lead in taking government off the backs of the American people and turning you loose to do what I know you can do.
It was radical. Moderate Republicans thought it was suicide. Jimmy Carter called it ridiculous. The press was extremely negative. But the odd thing is that it polled very well in New Hampshire, which was the first primary state, the state that we had to win.
What was odd was that there seemed to be a strange mosaic of support for Reagan's policies. The traditional pollsters could see no coherent pattern across class, age, or gender. But those who had designed the values and lifestyle system believed that they knew why. They were testing their system in both America and Britain, and they were convinced that both Reagan's and Mrs. Thatcher's message about individual freedom would appeal to the group at the top of their hierarchy, the inner directeds, because it fitted with the way they saw themselves.
They were really concerned about being individuals, being individualistic. And so in the early stages, when we were looking at the messages that both Thatcher and then Reagan were putting across, we said they are using words that will really appeal to a lot of the younger people, and particularly to the people who are moving towards self-actualization. We call them the inner-directed people. A lot of our colleagues said, that's absolutely ridiculous, because inner-directeds are very socially aware, very socially concerned. They'll never vote Conservative, or they'll never vote for the Republicans. But we said, if Thatcher and Reagan continue to appeal to them in this way, they really will.
And I vision leadership in taking government off your backs and turning you loose to do what you can do so well. Thank you very much.
The idea that the new self-actualizing individuals would choose a politician from the right, not the left, seemed extraordinary. But to test their prediction, the Values and Lifestyles team did a survey of voting intentions, and they correlated it with their new psychological categories.
When we said in our surveys, who are you going to vote for? Sure enough, it was the inner-directeds who said that they would vote for Thatcher and for Reagan. And they made the difference in those elections because of their voting for Thatcher and Reagan. And it really surprised our colleagues, even within my own organization. It really showed the power of this approach, because it's very difficult to identify inner-directeds on the street. These people who voted for Thatcher and Reagan, these inner-directeds, came from any walk of life. It's really hardly correlated with social class at all. I mean, if you just go along and look at age, sex, social class, you would never pick them up. But if you really go along with a questionnaire that gets at their values, then you can identify them very easily.
And that was new?
And that was completely new, yeah.
At the beginning of 1981, Ronald Reagan was inaugurated as president. But he took charge of a country that was facing economic disaster. The terrible inflation of the 1970s had destroyed much of America's traditional heavy industries, and millions were unemployed. But true to his campaign promises, Reagan told the country he would not step in to help, as all previous governments had since the war.
These United States are confronted with an economic affliction of great proportions. We suffer from the longest and one of the worst sustained inflations in our national history. Idle industries have cast workers into unemployment, human misery, and personal indignity. In this present crisis, government is not the solution to our problem. Government is the problem.
But America's ailing economy was about to be rescued, not by government, but by the new groups that the market researchers had identified, the self-actualizing individuals. They were about to become the motor for what would be called the new economy.
You can be what you want to be.
So regarding V8, what do you really want?
A tasty product that's good for me.
What do you want that for?
One technique is that we ask people the same question over and over and over again, and we say, what do you want? What do you really want? What do you want that for? And they start to talk about it, and they kind of get intimate with what's going on. What we're doing with that technique is unpeeling the onion. If you want to think of a person kind of having layers and layers and layers of protection and thoughts and behaviors and beliefs, we want to get to that center core.
In the wake of the invention of values and lifestyles, a vast industry of psychological market research grew up. And the old technique of the focus group, invented by the Freudian psychoanalysts in the 50s, was used in a new and powerful way. The original aim of the focus group had been to find ways to entice people to buy a limited range of mass-produced goods. But now focus groups were used in a different way to explore the inner feelings of lifestyle groups, and out of that invent whole new ranges of products, which would allow those groups to express what they felt was their individuality. And the generation who had once rebelled against the conformity imposed by consumerism now embraced it because it helped them to be themselves.
What capitalism managed to do that was brilliant was to actually create products that people like me would be interested in, that people like Jerry Rubin would be interested in. Capitalism developed a whole industry at developing products that evoked a larger sense of self, that seemed to agree with us that the self was infinite, that you could be anything you wanted to be, that took our philosophy and agreed with it, and then created products that supposedly helped you, aids that helped you be this
Like
limitless
what?
self.
What's he talking about?
The product sells you a way of life, a way of being. The product
lifestyle
sells you
products.
values.
Mm-hmm.
You dress this way, you live in a house like this, you have furniture like this, you use this computer.
Do you have regular jeans or? Oh, Gloria Vanderbilt does a lot in denim, in silks, and in cotton.
You eat in these restaurants, there are values there, hipness, coolness.
This is not, I repeat, not a marketing scheme.
So the notion that you could buy an identity replaced the original movement notion that you were perfectly free to create an identity. And you were perfectly free to change the world and make the world anything you wanted it to be.
Well, what I wear is a statement.
And this vast range of new desires fitted perfectly with changes in industrial production. Computers now allowed manufacturers to economically produce short runs of consumer goods. The old restrictions of mass production disappeared, as did the worry that had bedeviled corporate America ever since mass production had been invented, that they would produce too many goods. With the new self, consumer desire seemed to have no limit.
In the United States, the concern of companies was always that supply would outstrip demand, that we were producing too much, and that there was not a market for it. You don't hear that kind of talk anymore, because you've gone from a conception of a market of limited needs, and if you fill them, they're filled, to a market of unlimited, ever-changing needs dominated by self-expressiveness that products and services can satisfy in an endless variety of ways, and ways that change all the time. And consequently, economies have unlimited horizons.
Out of this explosion of desire came what seemed a never-ending consumer boom that regenerated the American economy. The original idea had been that the liberation of the self would create new kinds of people, free of social constraint. That radical change had happened. But while the new beings felt liberated, they had become increasingly dependent for their identity on business. The corporations had realized that it was in their interests to encourage people to feel that they were unique individuals and then offer them ways to express that individuality. The world in which people felt they were rebelling against conformity was not a threat to business, but its greatest opportunity.
It was, in a sense, the triumph of the self. It was the triumph of a certain self-indulgence.
It wasn't the triumph
view
of itself,
that
it was a hijack.
everything in the world and all moral judgment was appropriately viewed through the lens of personal satisfaction.
Mhm.
Indeed, the ultimate ending point of that logic is that there is no society. There is only a bunch
Yep.
of individual people making individual choices to promote their own individual well-being.
And there we are.
Next week's episode tells the story of how politicians on the left, in both Britain and America, turned to the techniques developed by business in order to regain power. But what they didn't realize is that what had worked for business would undermine the very basis of their political beliefs. They would find themselves trapped by the greedy desires of the new self.
The Politicians on the left are gonna come put it to work for them in the next one. Interesting.
All right.
How will they do that?
How will they do that indeed? All right.
Did you have so much fun in this one?
No, I didn't have fun on this one at all, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
What do you
Not so
mean? You
much.
got-
Not so
you
much.
got
The
to-
last
you
one was
got to
better
yell
for
at
me. Yeah, I guess, but so we're gonna do the next one. I guess.
I guess if we
You
have
can
to.
call me a retard for 3 hours again?
Well, I mean, yeah, you too. You call me retard.
Okay.
Which is what you were
All right.
doing. Except for I'm the only one with balls enough to say it.
All right. Fair enough. Is there anything else you want to
Oh.
talk about?
Oh man, Dr. Pouty McPowderstein.
Mm.
Oh man.
I don't really have
Oh,
anything else to
shit.
say. I like you like I don't have anything else to say. I just don't have anything else to say.
Wow. Okay. Well, I mean, I guess there's nothing to say.
All right. I don't know what to say.
You're mad.
Yeah,
Why?
because
Because he called you a retarded hippie?
I don't feel as though the discussion was in good faith.
Oh. Think I was lying about something or something?
No, I just think that and we don't have to talk about this live on the internet if you don't want to, but I think that the goal was not to have a discussion. The goal was to snipe. And so I don't like that. Because if I'm bringing up topics, I actually want to have a discussion about those topics. Like, and it didn't feel like you wanted to have a discussion. It felt like you wanted to snipe at me. So, which
What
is
do you mean-
fine if you
what do
want to
you mean
snipe
by
at me,
that?
but like,
What do you mean? What I want to snipe at you? What is it? What do you
Yeah.
mean? Snipe what? Like get
Mm.
little cheap owns on you or something?
yes.
Interesting. Well, that's not what it was like for me. But
Okay. Well, I'm glad you had a different experience.
yeah, I just felt like it was going places that you wanted to take it, and I just ran out of
I think that I wasn't being listened to in terms of the points I was making. And I'd be trying to make one point, and then all of a sudden we'd be over here, and I'd have to chase
yeah,
after
okay,
that
that's
point,
the experience.
and then
I'm
we were
having.
trying to
Yeah,
go back.
That's right. I would say one thing, and then you say something over here, and then I
Well.
would address that, trying to get back to the point, and you'd want to stay over there, and then I would just.
I think that last week's stream was more successful than this one. We can keep going though. But
Shoot. All right. Well, stop being mad.
well, let me have my feelings, okay? Allow me to have my feelings.
Knock it off.
That's
Jeez.
not allowing me to have my feelings.
No, stop. Stop having those feelings.
Well,
Have different ones.
but these are the feelings that I want to have for right now.
No.
I'm good with my choices.
I hurt your feelings. Now you have bad feelings.
Mm.
My bad.
It's all fine. It's fine.
Shoot.
I don't
I hate
don't know.
women. All they do is cry.
Okay, I'm like legitimately not crying.
You're crying.
I'm
You're being
literally
bad
not
faith.
crying. I don't think I am. I don't think I am at all.
Okay, then you're screaming. Stop screaming at me.
I'm not screaming either. I'm not doing anything
you're,
other
you're
than
silently seething. You're seething at me.
that could probably be happening. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm. I think that's probably the best characterization. Mm-hmm.
Well, I didn't do anything.
Sure.
It's not my fault.
Okay. Fine. It's not your fault. You did nothing wrong. You can do whatever you want. It's fine.
That's real.
Yeah, it is. I'm giving that to you. You did nothing wrong. You can do whatever you want. It's all fine.
Well, then this isn't fair. What you're doing.
I'm allowed to have whatever feelings I want to have. Just because you can do whatever
No,
you
you're being mean.
feelings I want to have.
No,
I'm
you're
not
being mean.
I'm really
Uh-huh.
not. I'm
Yeah.
really not. I'm saying
No, you
can do
are.
whatever
I'm
you
innocent.
want.
I'm
Yes,
innocent,
you
and I
are.
didn't do anything.
You didn't do anything. You
And
didn't
you're
do anything at
projecting,
all.
but you're still seething at me.
I am allowed to have my fucking feelings, Mike, okay? I'm allowed to have my feelings. You didn't do anything wrong. You can do whatever you want. It's all good, man. It's all fine.
That's true. I'm
Yeah.
innocent.
Yes, you are completely innocent. You did nothing wrong.
Well,
do whatever you want.
Stop being so messed up towards me then.
I am allowed to have my feelings.
No. Stop.
I'm not your property.
Have better feelings.
I am not your property. So I will have whatever feelings I feel like having for the moment. And you did nothing wrong. And it's all fine. And it's all good.
Well, I don't have to like
it's
it.
all good. You don't have to like it. You
Well,
are
then I
welcome
don't
not
like
to
it.
like
I don't like that.
Fine. You are welcome not to like it.
I don't like what you're doing right now, Carlin.
Your fucking disapproval has been noted. Okay? Your disapproval has been noted.
Good. And for the record, this isn't fair, and I didn't do nothing.
I'm telling you didn't do anything. I am telling you
Yeah.
you can do whatever you want. I am saying that it is fine.
Good. Yeah.
Josh Randall Disavow says, is big tech bothering you? No. Tell him I'm a deranged psychopath that zero fear of going to prison. I mean, I appreciate that, Josh Randall Disavows, and I appreciate you sending me all the super chats and big tech, none of the super chats.
Look how mean you're being. That's
You can
messed
do
up.
whatever you want, but I'm allowed to have
I'll be
feelings.
expecting an apology for this.
Oh, okay. Well, I think you might be waiting a while.
Well,
Since I've already said that you did nothing wrong.
I don't think I
and you
should
can do
wait a
whatever
long
you
time,
want.
actually.
Well,
I think it should come pretty soon. I think after,
okay.
after you cool off and get yourself together, you're going to realize, man, that was, I was being a certain kind of way toward big tech, and he didn't deserve it.
For a while. I wasn't any way towards you. I wasn't any way towards you. I did nothing wrong. I can do whatever I want. I can
You're
say
seething
whatever
at
I
me.
want. I'm allowed. I did nothing wrong. I'm innocent. I can do nothing wrong. I can do
No,
whatever I
I'm
want.
innocent. I did nothing wrong.
How about we're both innocent and we can both do whatever we want and it's all
No,
good?
you're guilty of seething.
Who says I can't seethe? It's my stream. I'm allowed to seethe if I want to seethe. I'm not doing anything wrong. I can feel however I want to feel. I can do
Well, I
whatever I
don't
want
like
to
it.
do. I can say whatever I want to say.
Well, I don't
I
like
mean,
it.
I'm very sorry you don't like it.
Are you?
But
Okay, I'll take that as an apology. All right, you apologized. Okay, I forgive you. Thank you. I'll take it. I'll take the apology. It's all
Fine.
right. Don't mind.
Fine.
It's all right. Go ahead and seethe. Seethe your heart out.
Okay. I will. Thank you.
See you next
Thank
week.
you. Thank you. Bye. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.